Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Patriots, gay-triots, they-triots, black-triots, brown-triots, and everybody who doesn't support those people can do what, Pumps?
Fuck off!
That's right. Hey, I meant to tell you, when I was at the No Kings March, there was these people that made this eagle float, and it actually the arms went like this, and Renee Stubbs and I, my tennis friend, we were both going, caw, fuck off.
She sent me the video.
Yeah, it was so fun. It was so fun.
That's really fun. They went all out in New York City, man. They're making a lot of money from Antifa in New York City.
Yeah. I mean, that is just so ridiculous. All right. Welcome to America's Top DEI podcast. Pumps, what have you had it with?
Okay, what I've had it with, and this is just, it's a fever pitch right now, but I've had it with this narrative that there are two sides to every story, that there are, we have to hear both sides in this political climate. And my response to that is, we can sit and hear about both sides of, should we repave this road now? Should we spend money on Christmas lights for the addition that you live in? But when you're talking about not sending food to vulnerable people and they are not going to eat and you like it and you celebrate that, there are no two sides to that. When you take people's rights away, that is not a two sides thing. So I'm just tired of the notion that there are always two sides to every story. I've had it.
Yeah, I think that the two sides thing has been going on a long time. And so it goes back to a question like this. Right now, sadly, Pumps, there are two sides to this. And pre-Trump, there weren't two sides to upholding the Constitution. There would never be some fringe political movement that ascended to the White House that wanted to dismantle and erode civil liberties. And now there is that. And much to my surprise, there are two sides to a conversation about the First Amendment. Our side, of course, we want the First Amendment. Our side wants free expression, freedom from religion or of religion. And their side doesn't want that. And so I think what's so devastating about your grievance is that not that long ago, there weren't two sides to the First Amendment. There weren't two sides to the separation of church and state. But because this fringe movement is so cruel and so ambitious and so diabolical, all of that priming of the two sides prior to this primed us for this moment where the Trump administration gets on and they make an argument against Democrats disagreeing with the president. And they try to demean and say that the Democrats are terrorists, jihadists, Hamas supporters, Antifa, and all this crazy shit. And it's really disturbing to wake up and realize you live in a country where something that used to be off limits as being two sides now is openly and brazenly and braggadociously two sides.
Right. Can Trump be president for a third term? Are you fucking kidding me? There should not be two sides to that argument. First of all, he's older than fuck and he doesn't even know where he is half the time. But that's here nor there. So that's my grievance. And I understand what you're saying about now there are two sides, but I'm old enough to remember when there were two perspectives, interpretations, there was a variety of that. And now I just feel like we've gone from either you're on the side of legality, the Constitution, and democracy, or you're a full-blown fascist and you don't give a shit. So I agree.
That's how effective their propaganda campaign has been, to take something that was off limits about being two sides. That was something where not that long ago, when Obama was running against John McCain and the rabid kind of racist Islamophobic base at a rally, this kind of crazy ass woman was like, I think he's a Muslim. And John McCain grabs the mic and he's like, no, ma'am. I disagree with him, but politically, but he is a good man, a good family man, a good American. And he shut it down immediately. He wouldn't allow both sides. There was a party, the Republican Party, that had a modicum of integrity and decency. And there was a mutual starting point that we all agree with democracy and we all are here to defend the Constitution. The propaganda machine of MAGA with the assist from Fox, or is it the other way around?
Right.
The propaganda machine of Fox with the assist to an authoritarian regime, and you could go either way on that, chicken or the egg, made it possible to where, sadly, what should not be two sides is. And I'm shocked when I go on to CNN as a guest host and I hear them just kind of reporting about what he's doing as though it's normal, as though the memory lapses are just completely ignored, or this push to erode civil liberties. And he has those pundits on there that are MAGA pundits that act as though it's normal. And this normalization of this has forced us to what I thought would never, ever happen, which would be that right now, one party is so deranged and so anti-American, and I'm talking about MAGA, that their only option is to say, oh, the Democrats are anti-American.
Right.
The Democrats want free and fair elections. The Democrats want you to have health care. The Democrats want billionaires to pay 2 to 3% more in taxes, which they will never miss. But that 2 to 3% will make a massive, massive difference in the workers of this country. The Democrats don't want to kiss the ass of billionaires, don't want to kiss the ass of some dementia-ridden grandma running around like a nut that can't blend his makeup. It's just crazy. It's so shocking every day when I wake up and I think about the grandstanding that the Republicans in office used to do about how they were so patriotic and decorum and all of this stuff. And then to my personal kind of like Republican friends, to see how much worse they've become. And that brings me to my grievance. I've had it with how much worse Trump makes people.
Yeah.
And you can think about it, listener, on a national scale. You can look at no further than DL, Demon Queen, Lil Marco Rubio. Or you can think about the people in your family or in your friend group that were Republicans. You know, they did the whole I'm fiscally conservative but socially liberal dance. But they weren't complete assholes, right? And then they vote for him the first time because they thought Hillary was evil and they were upset about emails. Whatever. Stupid. Different podcast entirely. Second time, they kind of embarrassingly voted for him, but some of them might have voted for Biden. Third time, like once you triple down on him, it has broken something in people on a big, high stage scale. And then the people in our personal lives, they've just become worse human beings. Almost everybody that I know that voted for Trump was a moderate piece of shit before, and now they're a heaping pile of dog shit as a human being now. Out of all the power that this man has, his ability to make people worse human beings is undefeated.
No, I agree. And to break, like, people that I always believed had a little bit of empathy or could have empathy on some level, have none. I mean, zero. I mean, when I ask a family member, what do you, specifically talking about immigration, what do you think Jesus would do? When people are being rounded up without due process and put somewhere they could be eaten by snakes and alligators if they try to escape, and the response is, I think he'd be all for it. I mean, that to me was just like, holy shit. We have jumped completely off any kind of sanity or empathy, and we have gone full blown crazy train.
Let me ask you this, though, Pumps. Do you think that family member, don't you think to some extent that was there and Trump has emboldened these people, whether they be family members, acquaintances, or Marco Rubio, or Ted Cruz always has been a sack of shit.
Yeah.
Emboldened them to be more out about it. You know, this thing like this whole thing after he won the third term, like everybody's like, it feels so liberating. Now we can, call people an FAG or an RETARD. We can say pussy again and all this stuff. I feel like in the case of some of the people that we know, like there was that there. And good leaders can temper our worst impulses. Like sometimes we might have, because of the way we were raised, communities we were raised in, hellfire, damnation, religion, sadly, a racist slight, a racist lean, or cruelty lean, or punitive lean. And then a good leader can make you go, oh, that was kind of wrong for me to think that way. What my pastor and what my mom and dad, they were kind of a different generation. I was wrong about that. I'm going to evolve. And then just a piece of shit leader, it's like he's bringing out the worst impulses that everybody has ever had and making them their most pronounced personality feature.
Yeah, he devolves people. I mean, they go back to like the reset settings of racism and misogyny. But I do think, just based on my experience, when you grow up evangelical, you are told you are better than other people, you are chosen, and you're entitled to things differently than other people. And on top of that, none of this shit can happen to you. So a problem that affects, person A can't affect me. So I think you have that round up with the racism and the mean-spiritedness. And so I think it's the perfect storm of, it's okay for me to not give a flying fuck what happens to other people because I'm better and the rules don't apply to me. So, and then you see Donald Trump, who is completely fucking lawless his entire life. And there's a part of that they identify with on some level.
Yeah. Yeah. Sadly, I think it's true. And then, nobody voted for Trump in a larger majority than white evangelical Christians. And as my atheist mother would say, Donald Trump exposed these evangelicals for the hypocrites I always knew they were. Because if you live in the Bible Belt and you live around white, sanctimonious, evangelical Christians, the attributes that Pumps just described, they think they're better, they think they're morally superior, don't have a lot of empathy. And this is pre-Trump.
Yeah.
Like pre-Trump, I noticed like in friend groups, play date groups when my boys were little, and I couldn't help but be around evangelicals because of geography where I lived in the Bible Belt. The meanest women that I knew were the evangelicals. They were the least accepting, the least compassionate, the least empathetic, and the least Christ-like. And I always was somewhat taken aback that my mother, a sworn atheist, I mean, she thinks if somebody is religious, it's almost like a character defect, that she was far more just, far more compassionate, far more empathetic, far more fair-minded than any Christian I had ever met, period. And so it was very disorienting, growing up around all of these right-wingers. But it surprises me zero that they lined up to triple Trump as fast as they could because misery loves company. And to see him get away with all the shit that he gets away with, and to see him be just such a piece of shit and nobody call him out on it, is comforting to them because they think, well, if they're not going to call him out on all of this moral duplicity, Nobody's going to call my ass out.
Right.
That I'm fucking my personal trainer, or I'm fucking my tennis instructor, or I'm, banging the pastor's wife or whatever, it provides comfort and cover for them. And so at the end of all of this, I think there needs to be a huge deprogramming of white evangelical Christians, because if you trace the roots of this movement, it goes straight back to the Deep South and to the KKK. And all of that hatred and all of that sanctimony and moral high ground has been there all along. And a good leader can help people evolve past that. A selfish, maniacal, diabolical leader like Trump accentuates all of that. All right. Welcome to I've Had It. I'm Jennifer.
I'm Angie.
She's the star beaver of our show.
Head beaver in charge.
Okay. Let's talk to Kylie. Kylie, oh, you look so pretty.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. I've got 2 reviews for you today, and I thought I'd start with a 1-star titled, You Can't Fix Stupid. And Thane Krios writes, you cannot help people who refuse it. Just keep moving. Although in this case, send an exorcist to the show if you know one.
Okay.
Can't fix stupid.
You can't fix stupid. And the fact that he believes in an exorcist is kind of a cell phone that I don't think he intended.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. Okay, I don't think he intended that. All right, go on.
The next one's 5 stars titled, I Owe You an Apology. And she writes, first discovered your podcast in 2024 on YouTube, not knowing what your show was about, except that it was called I've Had It. I automatically assumed both of you were Republicans because, to my stereotypical self, Republican women are white, blonde, and Southern. And while you're both white, blonde, and Southern, you are as far as Republicans as you can be. And for that, I owe you an apology for my judgment based solely on your looks, which you are both beautiful inside and out. And a huge thank you for fighting fascism with facts, passion, and humor. You inspire me to keep fighting, and I'm with you all the way. Big love to you both, to Kylie the Magic Lesbian, and to all who believe in democracy and human decency.
I love that review.
Apology accepted.
Yes.
I have dealt with this my entire life, traveling with my husband, going places, and people will be like, where are you from? And I'm like, Oklahoma City. And then, if you meet people from a blue state or blue city, they're always like, oh, and I'm like, I am not a Republican. I am not an evangelical Christian. Like, I get it, but I am none of those things. And this is so funny, Pump. So our friend Liz, she was in Las Vegas over the weekend, and she's at her son is marrying a girl, and they had a bachelorette type weekend. And our friend Liz, listener, she's just a good old time. She's a good time Liz, right? Yeah. And she's a very dry sense of humor. Anyway, they're in Vegas, and about 4 or 5, a gaggle of homosexuals anyway, gravitated over to Liz and her group. And they said, where are you from? And Liz said, Oklahoma. And they looked at her like only a homosexual man can. Right. Very judgy and just the geographic inferiority. And Liz, sharp as a tack and witty, says, I'm a liberal. And they go, oh, thank God. Just relieved as all get out. And then he said, actually, our favorite podcasters are from Oklahoma. And Liz goes, well, I actually know them. And one of them, Jennifer, is one of my dearest friends. And so they called, and I guess now you can leave a FaceTime voicemail. What? Yes, I didn't know this. The gays taught Liz how to leave a FaceTime voicemail, and they left me a FaceTime voicemail. And it was so cute. And so to all of the blue dots out there in heaping pile of MAGA shit Redland, it's time for us all to rise, because we all know to stay liberal and stay progressive in the worst of conditions around the judgiest, most horrific, flea bag human beings imaginable is uphill in the snow, barefoot, twice a day. And so shout out to all of you, because I know how judgy these coastal elites can be. And some of the best liberals I know are people that are tucked into the reddest areas imaginable.
Yeah. I completely agree. And one thing you said one time really sticks with me about how if you live on the coast, you wake up and you breathe liberal air. It's understood the air's liberal, da, 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 da. When you wake up in Magaville, I mean, it's like you have to have an oxygen tank to get started.
All right, Kylie, what else do we have going today?
I've got some news stories, and this one we were tagged in because it reminded them of you, Jessica. People magazine reports woman ends her marriage of 25 years after husband eats her slice of cake. And these are the facts. A woman said her husband surprised her with a trip to rekindle their struggling marriage. During her trip, he ate her leftover slice of anniversary cheesecake and laughed it off. She realized the cake symbolized years of emotional neglect and decided she was done.
Okay, here's the deal, listener. And for you longtime listeners, you will know that this happened. 2 Christmases ago, I made cinnamon rolls. Don't get excited. They weren't homemade or anything like that. It's like the Poppin' Fresh, right? So I make those and I'm talking, we're talking about our presents, talking to the boys, I'm talking to my dogs. And I start the cinnamon roll outside and leave the best bite for the end because I can delay gratification. So I turn over, I'm talking to my sons, and I turn back to get my last bite. And Josh ate it. He fucking ate the center of the cinnamon roll. And I'm going to tell you here right now what she said about years of emotional neglect and like that being metaphorical for a lot of shit is so true. Because I felt that same thing when he ate that best bite of the cinnamon roll. I thought, this fucker just takes and takes and takes and takes. And we were able to move past cinnamon roll gate in our marriage. And actually, he's being a lot better about not shopping over my plate. But it was devastating. It was just such an abject selfishness about it that was so off-putting. So I can see, as crazy as that sounds, that it led to divorce, but it's a pattern.
Yeah.
And Josh definitely had that pattern. He's riding the ship. You know, everybody knows he's been to rehab a few times, as we've discussed previously. He's riding the ship. He's doing a lot of work on himself, and he's not so selfish anymore. But I can see how she arrived at that decision, because it's like, you can't get mad at 1,000 little cuts, but that one thing, it's like, you ate my fucking cake. Divorce. It makes sense to me.
Happens all the time. As a divorce lawyer, you see people that come in and are like, this was the straw that broke the camel's back. And you're like, on a scale of 1 to 10, it's about a 6. But then they give you, the last 5 years and you're like, well, fuck, yes, this is the straw.
Yeah. All right, Kylie, what's next?
Okay, I've got another one that I wish we would do in the United States. And China is now regulating influencers, and only those with university degrees can discuss professional topics. So this is like the life coaches and things. So only those who can prove verified competencies will be allowed to address topics such as medicine, finance, education, and health. And those who don't follow the rules risk account suspension or fines.
I mean, the great thing about if we institute a policy like this is it would completely wipe out the Trump regime.
Totally. In every area.
Nobody would be left. Everybody would be disqualified from this. But there is this whole thing in the United States, like we've discussed a lot, the life coaches. There's a lot of people giving advice online that shouldn't be giving advice. And every time I see like someone that I know personally, where all of a sudden this account pops up and they're an expert in something I never knew this person to have an area of expertise in, I'll call Pumps and I go, Jane Doe, that gal, remember her that we've been talking about now for 15 years? What a fucking train wreck she is, fucks around on her husband all the time, popping pills, blah, 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 blah. Now she's an expert in this. Look at this Instagram account. It's always the train wrecks, always the worst of the worst that claim expertise. which is exactly what's happening with MAGA.
Yeah.
These are all train wrecks of individuals. Think about Hegseth and his mother writing him letters, get your shit together, blah, blah, blah. Think about Marco Rubio, what a train wreck he is. Think about
Christy Nettle.
She's a disaster, shooting her dog. Stephen Miller.
Oh.
These are absolute, and just Kanks. Kanks is a train wreck, and he has been a disaster for years that is very good at propaganda. Even before he ever was in politics, he was constantly engaged in a propaganda campaign promoting himself as the most eligible bachelor in New York while he was married.
Yeah. And one thing that always gets me is like he would call and he would just browbeat the Forbes list until they put him on the world's richest or whatever it was. Remember, it was super duper important. And so he would disguise his voice, but they would know it was him. Kind of the same with the he's the best lay in town kind of thing. Okay. Why wouldn't he have, he's so incompetent. He wouldn't even have a female call and say, oh, I slept with Trump. He's the best lay on the planet. Or I'm so-and-so. He would disguise his own voice to say how rich he was. It's
because he thinks he's better at everything than everybody else. That's his inherent flaw. He thinks he knows more about magnets and windmills and whale deaths, reverse bathtubs, Hannibal Lecter. And he would think nobody is going to be able to disguise their voice and pitch it as well as I can because I'm the best of this. I know more about me than anybody else. Believe me, that's his inherent malignant narcissism. In his mind, he thinks only I can pitch this to where it's believable. And here's the thing. He scammed and conned his way to the White House because he is a poor, stupid person's idea of a smart, rich man.
Yeah.
That's the base. And then a layer above that, you have the country club Republicans, white people in socioeconomic circles that you and I know, pumps, that are fine with whatever fuckery and cruelty and illegalities come out of that administration, as long as they don't have to pay their fair share in taxes. And it is that simple. And there are millions upon millions upon millions of voters that vote for that and that alone. I don't give a shit what they do to anybody else as long as I don't have to pay more in taxes. And that is a huge chunk of the MAGA movement.
Yeah, it is.
And to me, they're worse because they know he's fucked up. They know how insidious it is that he wants to actively erode civil rights, that he actively puts minor immigrant children in zip ties, but they don't give a shit. They will vote for him, these country club Republicans, regardless of what he does to any black and brown child, as long as their taxes don't go up. And I have known so many Republicans like this in my life. It makes me sick. I'm so excited about our guest today, listener. You're going to be excited too, because he's a star, in my opinion, a great thought leader. And of course, it's Mehdi Hasan, and he is the founder and editor-in-chief of Zeteo. Mehdi, are you on here?
I am indeed. Thanks so much for having me, guys.
Yeah,
Hi.
Thanks for coming. I'm so happy to meet in virtual real life.
Yes. We should have met in real life, but good to see you both virtually. Big fan of the show.
We're a big fan of yours. You were so smart and also a great attack dog, which I like. I like fuck you politics, and you bring that. And I think that those are the people that are shining the most right now because this is such a massive moment.
Yeah, unfortunately, the media hasn't met this moment, as you guys know, as well as I do. And therefore, those of us who are still trying to call out the bullshit in front of our eyes, we are still trying to be, the emperor's new clothes, I think about from my childhood. Just say what is actually going on in front of us. Say that Donald Trump is wandering around like a madman on his Asia visit. Say that he's rambling about good-looking people to the troops in Japan yesterday. Just be able to say, this is not normal, right? That's the four-letter sentence, a four-word, sentence of our era. This is not normal.
Right.
No. And can you imagine just the Japan trip? his behavior and the wandering around and the politicization of the troops. And it's, to me, I'm no physician, but he clearly has some form of dementia. And just 24 hours prior to the wandering around lost with the Japanese prime minister, on Air Force One, he bragged about taking a animal identification test, a picture of a giraffe. He was able to choose it. And he bragged about that. And it's not, I turned on CNN this morning. I was like, is anybody talking about that?
Yeah. No.
Went to MSNBC, crickets.
We've normalized it. Everyone has, whether liberal, conservative. I've tried not to. For 10 years, I've tried to keep going, saying, I moved to this country in 2015, just weeks before he came down that golden escalator. My entire presence in this country for 10 years has been defined by Donald Trump being in our public scene and people normalizing what I see and many others see as clearly abnormal. And, you know, he goes on top of the White House and does a rant. He walked around the roof of the White House, got no coverage at the time. I remember doing a quick check of all the news websites. Who was saying, he's just wandering, an old man's wandering around the top of his house screaming about nuclear missiles. Even on that flight, Jennifer, on Sunday, he also talked about taking an MRI, and then he wouldn't say why. And I'm trying to think about another president, forget Joe Biden, any other president who could say, oh, I took an MRI, I'm not going to tell you why. I got shot in the ear, but I'm not going to release the medical records. I went to an annual check for my health, even though I already had one a few months ago. I've got weird blotchy things on my hand that make me look like someone out of Count Dracula. All of that has happened in the last few weeks, and yet we just carry on like normal, like the president is not having some kind of physical or mental health crisis.
And then not to mention, this gets buried all the time, but it's just something I try to bring up to the surface. He went on and on about the size of Arnold Palmer's cock. And within 30 days of that, Mehdi, he tried to give a microphone a blowjob that wasn't working. And this just, any other politician, that would be career ending.
Oh, I mean, that's 10 years of this. And it's, again, you can't blame Trump, right? We go, oh, Trump. It's not Trump's fault. He is who he is. It's the rest of ours fault for enabling it, for looking away, for aiding and abetting, for moving on, for tolerating, for excusing. You know, the number of people, even liberals, who say stuff like, you'll tell them something. I'll tell friends of mine, Donald Trump just did this, and they'll just chuckle, say, that's who Trump is. We don't do that for anyone else.
Right.
How did this guy, how did the freak from Home Alone 2 get this special pass from the entire American public, American media, American political establishment? I mean, you talk about manhood, size of penises. He made fun of Marco Rubio's manhood back in 2016. I'm old enough to remember that. I know we all move on. Marco Rubio today is his Secretary of State, who stands silently and is perfected. Did you see him on Air Force One? He just stands there straight-faced as Trump rambles about the dementia test and how Jasmine Crockett couldn't beat him in a dementia test. And Rubio's just standing there, just straight-faced. I wonder if he practices that in the mirror in the morning. Just how do I keep a straight face when this clearly insane boss of mine is saying so? But, you know, these people will sell out for anything. He wanted to be Secretary of State. He wants to run for president in 2028. So Marco Rubio, a man who knows better, and just tolerates it. And I think history will judge the Rubios of this world much harsher than they'll judge the Peter Hegseths of this world.
No, I agree with that.
What have you had it with? We like to ask all of our guests what they've had it with, and then we'll dive back into beating up on establishment Dems and stuff like that. But right out of the gates, what have you had it with?
So just what I mentioned a moment ago, you know what I've had it with most? The more I watch Trump, I've had it with our amnesia in this country, right? It's just Americans are like goldfish. We can't remember what happened last week, let alone last month or last year. We just are unable to retain things. And so people like Donald Trump are able to just do the craziest, most offensive criminal things. And we all just move on. We all say, oh yeah, I forgot he sent an armed mob to the Capitol. Oh yeah, I forgot he kidnapped kids at the border. Oh, I forgot that 100,000 Americans died from COVID that didn't need to die from COVID. I spent much of last year telling people, you know, Donald Trump's going to be bad. And they would say stuff like, he wasn't that bad the first time around. We survived term one. And I would say, actually, 100,000 Americans didn't survive term one that didn't need to die. And he, you know, helped enable their deaths with his incompetence during the pandemic. So it's the amnesia that kills me right now. When I talk to people, everyone just, it's always like reset day one, especially in our media. It's what's new? Look ahead. Don't look back. And I'm like, no, we have to look back. We can't forget what has been going on.
What do you think about, like, okay, one thing that has shocked me is the appeasement in advance, like ABC News and CBS News and 60 Minutes. I'm like, Harvard, you You people have all the money, all the access in the world, and you're not fighting it. So why do you think that has been just people falling in line? It really surprises me.
Yeah, it's surprised me as well. I probably shouldn't be surprised because I'm quite a cynical person, but the speed at which it's happened has surprised me. Watching all those billionaires from the tech world lining up behind him at the inauguration. Like, if Jeff Bezos is going to roll over, and he's the second, third richest man in the world, then you wonder, what are the rest of us supposed to do? It's not a great inspiring look. If the guy, as someone pointed out, what is the point of having fuck you money if you can't say fuck you?
Right.
What is the point of being that rich and going, oh, but I'm worried about this space contract, or I'm worried about Washington? No, you are Jeff Bezos. You have made more money than most people in history combined. You don't need anything else. You can go buy an island and live somewhere else and speak the truth. But the problem is that a lot of these people are not just cowards. They actually agree with Trump. I think a lot of these people in the elites were waiting for someone like Trump to come and bash minorities and, yes, cut their taxes and deregulate their industries. But a lot of them think wokeness went too far. The civil rights era went too far. We've let all these women and minorities go way too far. And I think a lot of them secretly think Trump is a good thing. And so they can hide behind he's bullying us, he's forcing us into doing this. But I think a lot of them wanted to go along with it because, as you point out, they have a lot of money. These university presidents, these media bosses, these tech billionaires, they don't all have to roll over to Trump. They choose to do that. And that is what's so shameful and why I think they will be judged again so harshly as the enablers of this stuff, because they could start. And look, there's no solidarity in our society. This is a problem. People don't stick together. I said this at the No Kings protest recently. There are more of us than there are of them, but we don't give that impression if we're all atomized and cut off from each other and fighting from one another and throwing each other under the bus. One example I always give, the White House press corps, right? Mm-hmm. If you ever watch their press conferences with Trump, especially in the first term, he would say, "You're fake news. I'm not answering that question. You." Why didn't the next reporter say, well, I'm going to ask the same question as the person before? And the person after me, if you ignore me, they're going to ask the same question. Right. They never do that. They go, oh, he came to me, I'll ask my question. There's no solidarity amongst journalists when Trump is attacking them. And there is strength in numbers, right? The way the bully works, the way the fascist work is to go after each person individually and make you think you're on your own. But if you stick together, then they lose. The problem is too many of our elites, too many of our institutions are not sticking together.
Well, and I think it's so short-sighted of the Bezos, the Elon Musks, to bend the knee to this type of man, especially when you get to Cook of Apple. Dumb and Dumber, that's what I call the Eric and Don Jr., right? Dumb and Dumber tried to launch Trump phone. These people are so depraved and absolutely advertise that the rule of law may apply to you, but it absolutely doesn't apply to us. Yep. What's going to keep them from doing a Putin play where they don't say, you know what, we think we want Apple.
Yeah.
We want that. That's what these people do. So Bezos.
He's already taken stakes in major companies.
Exactly. And so it's so short-sighted on their part. But I want to talk about little Moses Mike Grinder Johnson. He's somebody I like to pick on quite a bit because he's from the same area of the country that I'm from. And I'm very familiar with these white evangelical hypocrites, abundantly familiar. Yeah. And I'll tell you, he gets on TV pretty much, 3 and 4 times a day on this.
All the Sunday shows,
shutdown.
CNN. Yeah.
And he propagandizes and he propagandizes and he propagandizes and he propagandizes. And I'm like, all right. He's dedicated to the cause. Like he's the Democrat shut down, blah, blah. So then, I wander around the internet and I'm like, well, where is Hakeem and Chuckles? Where are they? Why aren't they every day, all day talking about what a breathtaking religious hypocrite little Moses Mike Grinder Johnson is? Why aren't they saying this guy preaches to you that he and Jesus Christ are best friends, yet he demonizes the poor. He celebrates kids being zip tied and deported and separated from their families. It's such a layup, Mehdi.
Yes.
And it would actually penetrate in the religious South.
Yeah.
And it's fucking crickets, and it drives me insane.
It drives me more insane, dare I say. I actually wrote a piece for The Guardian about a month or two ago saying they got to go. Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer. No one genuinely believes they are the right men for this task. They are the right people for this moment. Nobody believes it. I interviewed multiple members of Congress, and every single one I asked them, What about Chuck Schumer? What about Hakeem Jeffries? And they all take a deep breath and then they defend them. But you can see their heart's not in it. You can see in their eyes, they don't want Hakeem Jeffries. They don't want Chuck Schumer. It's just Democrats don't have the spines to actually get rid of them. There's a real loyalty and deference to authority and age in the Democratic Party with Chuck Schumer in particular. I mean, why is Chuck Schumer even still leader of the Senate Democrats? They lost the Senate. When you lose an election, you should step down. You don't carry on as the leader after you lost the Senate. And it's just bizarre that he's still in place. He's super old. He's super weak. He hasn't endorsed Zohran Mamdani. Jeffries endorsed Mamdani literally, 72 hours ago or whatever it was, ridiculously at the very end, half-heartedly. They're both also not very good as communicators. So on the one hand, I'm very critical that they're always AWOL. On the other hand, when I see them on TV, I want to throw something at the TV because they're just not very good. Have you heard Hakeem Jeffries speak? I think it sounds like it just came out of Chat GPT. Like you just, what? It's so robotic. It's so garbled. Somebody asked him the other day why he hadn't endorsed Mamdani. It was a couple of days before he did it. And he said, it's not that I haven't endorsed him. It's that I haven't articulated. I can't even remember what he said. It was just complete gibberish. So in a time when we need good communicators, they are not good communicators. At a time when we need bold leaders, they are not bold leaders. And on the faith front, I totally agree with you. I'm a person of faith. I'm a Muslim. It kills me that the Republican Party have decided to occupy all the space for religion and faith in this country, have basically tried to own religion and faith and moral values, even as they have this amoral, irreligious man in the White House who, when asked what his favorite book of the Bible was, said like all of it. He couldn't name a single verse or chapter. So it annoys me. And I think people like James Tallarico in Texas, who's running for the Senate, are interesting characters because they are willing to talk about their faith very openly and very proudly. And I think that I would like to see more of that. Obviously not from Democrats who don't have faith, each to their own. But those who do, those who are Christians or Jews or Muslims, talk about your faith. Don't let these people pretend that they are the people of faith when they are doing the most un-Jesus thing possible. They're like demonizing children and the poor and the refugees. As many people have pointed out, if Jesus were to come back tomorrow, I don't know what the Republican Party would do to him.
I think they would be shocked at the color of his skin.
Right.
First
Deport
and
him.
foremost.
I think they would deport him.
You bring up a really important point. So I'm an atheist, bizarrely, like the only atheist born and raised by atheist parents in the buckle of the Bible Belt. And so I don't have much.
They couldn't get you.
I've been on the top of every prayer warrior list. I've been heavily recruited. I mean, you wouldn't believe the efforts.
They all failed.
Despite all of that, they all failed. Because my mother sees religion as almost like a shortcoming, intellectual shortcoming. So I was kind of brainwashed the other way, right? So, but I do think America is one of the more religious first world countries. And we have a crazy Christian problem in this country that is never discussed. And when I grew up in a red state and lived in a red state, I was always relieved to know that people in blue states and the Democrats could win the White House and protect me in Oklahoma from the worst impulses of these crazy Christians. And so it's been horrifying to see the ascension of the crazy Christians to the White House and them streamlining it. And I'm with you. As much as I don't like to hear politicians talk about religion, we're going to have the Andy Beshears, the James Tallaricos, remind Christians what their faith is supposed to be. Yes. And we had Andy Beshear on I've Had It a while ago. And he gave a very good argument about why he wouldn't throw trans kids under the bus. This is a Democrat in Kentucky who won twice. Yeah. And he sat in our studio and said he would not throw trans kids under the bus. Fast forward a few months later, I have Rahm Emanuel on the podcast, and he immediately threw trans kids under the bus. And so it just amazes me, this clash between the Democratic establishment, who are structured and disciplined, and we're going to stay on message, and everybody in the country has moved on to this kind of fuck you breed of politics, right? And the Democrats try to stay so message, and we're going to poll this, and we're only going to speak to the polling. And now the Democratic establishment, to me personally, feels like the conservative party, that they want to preserve and conserve the status quo. And then you have these people, AOC, Mamdani, Sanders, filling arenas for a mayoral race. Yes. And the two fuckers from New York that should have ridden their coattails, I'm talking about Hakeem and Chuckles, no shows. Yeah. And I wake up every day and I can't decide, am I more frustrated with MAGA or am I more
Same.
frustrated with the Democrats? And quite frankly, at this point, I'm more frustrated with the Democrats because like you said in your No King speech, there are more of us.
Yeah.
For sure.
But they don't take advantage of that. And look, everything you're saying, I 100% endorse. Just a couple of things. One is not just Schumer and Jeffries. Let's not forget Kirsten Gillibrand, the senator from New York, junior senator from New York, who also has not endorsed Mamdani. Not only has she not endorsed Mamdani, she lied and said that he supported global jihad. Apparently, she called him and apologized. She didn't apologize to me and other Muslims who she smeared by extension. She didn't do a public apology. So Democrats have engaged in awful Muslim baiting and Islamophobia as well during this Mamdani race, and it is awful. And they know they couldn't fill a living room, let alone a stadium, in the way that those three did on Sunday. The energy they know is on one side of the party. You're right about the crazy folks. One thing I want to say, though, is that, again, I don't want to cede the ground and say it's the crazy Christians because they're Christians. I just want to remind your viewers and listeners, a lot of this, what we're seeing on the right, is very astroturfed. It is very recent. It is very political, right? Up until the 70s and 80s, you didn't see stuff like this on the right. This stuff came out of the moral majority. It came during the Reagan era, the end of the 70s. This was even the pro-life movement is very modern, right? It doesn't go back 50, 100 years. So it's really interesting the way that they have politicized and weaponized the faith. And it is not all Christians. It is a very specific subset of right-wing politicized Christians and white Christians. Because when people say, oh, evangelicals, I'm always like, black evangelicals are not voting for Trump. A lot of Latino evangelicals are not voting for Trump. It's like when we say working class Americans, actually white working class Americans, black working class Americans are still reliably Democratic. So we just got to be specific about the fact of who we're talking about here. It is a very narrow, specific group of people who don't represent a majority of Christians, let alone a majority of Americans. We need to make that clear so that they can't play the victim. Oh, you're picking on Christianity and Christians. No, we're not. We're picking on you. We're picking on this specific group of bigots who have weaponized faith. I'm a Muslim. I know all about people in religious communities who try and weaponize your faith. I spent 20 years dealing with people in my community who pretend that they're holier than thou, but are actually using religion for political purposes. And that's what we're seeing on some parts of the Christian right as well. And in terms of the Democratic establishment, it's a joke. It's a joke. And it worries me because, A, I worry that they're not going to be able to take back the House, and that's our last bulwark against full-on fascism in this country. And even if they take back the House, does anyone have any confidence that Speaker Jeffries is going to fight the good fight from the House against the Trump White House?
Yeah. No. What do you think about Gavin Newsom, J.B. Pritzker? You have these governors that are really setting a good example of how to fight this regime. And so is there anybody like that? I mean, obviously you've got Chris Murphy, but who would be better than Hakeem Jeffries in your mind? I mean,
in the House, there are many people. I would, if I had a crystal ball, magic wand, whatever the phrase is, I would have someone like Jamie Raskin be the House Speaker because he's a smart guy, knows the institution, super experienced, but also is always willing to fight, always willing to go on TV and give us a great soundbite, always willing to take on anyone, anywhere, has a moral backbone as far as I can see, has taken strong stances on many issues. He came late to Gaza, but at least he came to Gaza and called for a ceasefire as a Jewish member of the House. Unlike Hakeem Jeffries, who kind of was hard, what does Charlemagne call him? Apak Shakur. This idea of these guys are just so weak. They're so feckless. And again, I think we've learned from the 2024 election, we learned from Trump versus Harris, that you've got to be a politician who is willing to speak off the cuff. You've got to be willing to go anywhere. You've got to be willing to take on anyone. You've got to be unafraid. You can't just be poll testing your messages all the time, focus grouping your messaging all the time. As we've seen with Graham Plattner, and I think he's made some huge fuck-ups with that tattoo. But what's interesting about Plattner is that he comes out, he says his piece, he explains himself, and then he goes and does a town hall and double the number of people turn up, which tells you, rightly or wrongly, I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong, but people don't care about a lot of things that Democrats have spent so much time worrying about. I can't say a gaffe. I can't say this wrong sentence. I can't say that word. No, Donald Trump blew all that up, and we're in a very different environment now. And it's interesting that you mentioned Jennifer, you mentioned the swearing is interesting because what they think they have to do now, have you seen Chuck Schumer started swearing, started F-bombing? Yes, they think that's what it means to be like bold and unafraid. No, the swearing has to have a purpose. You have to be swearing about something. It has to be bad backed by a platform. It's like people who go, Mamdani's got great videos. Yeah, he does have great videos. But in the videos, he's saying things that people resonate with. It can't just be one or the other. You need the slick messaging and the bold rhetoric and the not give a fuck attitude, but you also need to be pushing stuff that people want to hear and do.
I think the Democratic establishment, the Gillibrands, the Schumers, Hakeem, Booker, who I had some issues with.
You did a great job. You probably did a better interview with Cory Booker than I've seen any mainstream TV anchor do in the last decade.
Oh my gosh.
That's high praise.
It's 100%. Everyone I know. I was playing pickleball last night. There's an admission because I'm old and I can't do any actual proper sports.
Too.
Okay, then I've just insulted you. But I'm old and unfit and I can't play any sports. So I went to play pickleball and I mentioned that I'm coming on this podcast today. And the other three guys went, the Cory Booker woman. Every single one. They knew you from Cory Booker.
I think those types of Democrats are so out of touch, and they think what's happening in New York is just something crazy that's happening in New York because New York is New York. And they are fucking around right now. And they're going to find out that what's happening in New York is happening all over the place. That Trump did one of two things to you. He either made you a worse person and you capitulated to all of your worst impulses, and you're fine with a bunch of shit that you would have never been fine before. That triple Trump, that third time broke a lot of people. And then when he won that time in 24, it caused a lot of people that I know, rich ass white women with husbands that own oil and gas companies, to turn and march their noses to the left. And their husbands joke around with them now that they're commies because that's how far left they've gone. And these are people that live in deeply red states. And this is happening not just to white women, not just to our age group, not to young people, boomers. Fox News first said that no King's March was going to be all these crazy terrorists, Hamas supporters, jihadists. Then they're like, look at all these crazy boomers. Yeah. It's happening everywhere. And the Bookers, the Jeffries, the Gillibrands, they don't have a clue as to where the party is going. Yeah. And it is so frustrating that it's like literally teed up. The moment is here. And it doesn't take that much to rile up MAGA, that administration. They're all bluster. And with a sharp minority leader in the House that could whip everybody into shape, I think that we could really build a resistance. But I also want to say this, because I want to say this every chance I can get. As a woman that lived in a red state, I only recently moved to New York, I would have crawled through 10 feet of concrete to vote for a corporate Democrat, and I still would. I would still go and vote for a Cory Booker. I would vote for a Jeffries. I would vote for a Schumer.
If the alternative is Mike Johnson.
Yes. Because it means that women will not have to have their rapist baby. It means a lot. It's a lifeline for a lot of marginalized people in these red communities that are often the collateral damage of these MAGA policies. And so I don't know. I share all of your frustration with it, but I think every time we have one of these politicians on, we should do everything we can to hold them accountable, to move them. Because 100%. We have the leaders we have. And
you guys have done that well. And a lot of these politicians have been told now, right? Post 2024, post Harris Rogan debacle, go on podcasts. That's where you need to go. So they're going on podcasts and then they get surprised at what they get asked on the podcasts. And I think that's a fascinating dynamic, not just on your brilliant show, but on other shows I've seen. Gavin Newsom was on with Van Lathan recently. He was asked about AIPAC and you could tell he's never been asked about AIPAC before. So it's interesting that the podcasts are kind of setting a different scene. They just don't get it, right? They think that if you swear a bit and you go on some podcasts, that is connecting with the debate. And it's not, right? Graham Plattner gets it and AOC and Mamdani get it. And the Mamdani thing is so infuriating because they spent months after 2024 saying, how do we connect with young men? How do we have a dynamic candidate? How do we have someone who's young and not old? Like, he gave them everything. This guy just comes up and he's connecting with young people. He's connecting with Republicans and independent voters who are switching over to him. And you just and the establishment says, okay, we're not going to back you. We're not going to support you. We're not going to endorse you. Even though we endorsed Eric Adams within within seconds of Adams winning, and Adams won narrowly. Mamdani won the primary by a landslide. Schumer endorsed Adams, called him the future of the party, right? So first, apologize, Chuck Schumer. Number two, endorse Zoran Mamdani. Number three, quit and let someone else run the Senate, whether it's Chris Murphy or Brian Schatz or whoever it is, someone younger, more dynamic to take over. Chris Van Hollen, who I have a soft spot for. I think there are a lot of people out there who can do a better job. And as you say, Trump is there for the taking. Like, if you can't beat the Democratic establishment lost to Donald Trump in 2 out of 3 elections. And I would argue they probably would have lost in all 3 had it not been for COVID. Let's just be very honest. Trump probably would have won re-election in 2020 had it not been for the pandemic. So they lost in 2 out of 3, almost lost in 3 out of 3. And they're still lecturing the rest of us on what the right way forward is, what the best electoral strategy is, how to beat Trump. No, you failed miserably. Let other people have a go. Let other strategies work. Try and listen to people who actually talk to people on the ground. And the only answer for why they're not doing that with Mamdani, for example, or even just Plattner as well, pre the Nazi tattoo, it's got to be 2 reasons. I know it's depressing. It's 2 reasons. One is they are corporate Democrats who just don't like what Mamdani stands for. He's going to raise taxes and hurt the rich, and their donors don't want them to do that. And number 2 is it's Islamophobia. It's the brown Muslim guy who is running and also criticizing Israel at the same time. By the way, the onslaught of Islamophobia over the last 72 hours, especially on places like Twitter, but generally has been insane. Not just from the Republican Party and Fox, but from Andrew Cuomo, from Eric Adams, from all these people. Where the hell is the rest of the Democratic Party? Where are the leadership? Where, not just Schumer and Jeffries, where are all of the Democrats? Why are they not standing up and saying, how dare you come after our mayoral candidate like that? How dare you go after millions of Muslim Americans? We've heard so much about anti-Semitism in the last few years, and anti-Semitism is a scourge in this country, and people should speak out against anti-Semitism. But the same politicians who loudly spoke out against anti-Semitism, I don't hear from them when people are going after Mamdani, when people are saying deport Zoran Mamdani, when people are going after Ilhan Omar. I don't see those same politicians speaking out for their fellow Muslim Democrats, and it is truly shameful.
I think that the Islamophobia is the main reason with Mamdani, because it is having a moderate Muslim that makes a sanctuary city for LGBTQ plus people goes against the narrative that I was raised around, that, oh, these Muslims have all these wives and they blow shit up and they throw gay people off the buildings. And just by default, in my early 20s, I was Islamophobic. I didn't realize that I was, but having been raised by an atheist, I had a default setting to judge all religions inherently. But then you pile on 9/11, and then what tidbits
and race.
Get,
I mean, Muslims tend to be brown.
Yeah, they're anti-gay and all of this stuff. And I had a lot of gay friends. I was an interior designer. So I was I was Islamophobic, but I evolved from that. And Mamdani represents something that is the establishment, both the Democrat and Republican, a huge arrow right into that argument, because he is a moderate Muslim. And I have evolved and I have learned that every religion has its crazies. We have the white evangelical, have their roots in the KKK, that I call the crazy Christian problem in America. Muslims have their crazies as well, but the overwhelming majority of people from both faiths are peaceful. They want to live their life, and they use that as some sort of focusing for their own personal serenity. And so I think that that is why you get people that don't stand up. But I will say I was very impressed with Kathy Hochul standing up for him the other night. And I really liked her a lot for that.
100%. Given the lack of noise from other Democrats, the governor's words were important, and her endorsement earlier on was important. I would just say 2 things on that. Number one, the mixed messaging doesn't work for his opponents, right? They don't know how to attack him. So Andrew Cuomo's like, he's a radical jihadist. And then he's also like, but he's super liberal. Hey, Muslim voters in New York, like, he supports prostitution, but he's a radical jihadist. Like, make your mind up. Is he a radical jihadist, or does he want legalized prostitution? They can't, the messaging's all over the place. I saw yesterday someone saying he's funded by Soros. So he's an anti-Semite who's funded by the most famous Jewish billionaire in the world. Make your minds up, right? You can't have it both ways. But they keep doing that, and the message doesn't stick because it's so ludicrous. I saw some Republican the other day saying he wants an Islamic theocracy in New York. And I just posted a picture and a quote tweet of Zoran and Tish James at a pride rally saying, is this what you think Islamic theocracy looks like? The guy marches in pride rallies, right? A lot of conservative Muslims don't like that about him.
With a trans flag. I mean, like, it's not just that he was in the pride parade.
He's got actual policies that support the LGBT community.
And let me just say something really quick. I want to say something. We have some friends in Oklahoma City, and they have a trans daughter. And the policies are so horrible in that state. Their only option is to move out of a state and take their kids from schools that they know and neighborhoods that they know and friends that they know, because that's what MAGA supermajorities do to marginalized people. So when you see a Zoran Mamdani say, we are going to be a sanctuary city, that is a lifeline of compassion and empathy that goes at the heart of the narrative that a lot of Americans have been sold, that Muslims are anti-gay, radical jihadists. And then this guy's marching around with a trans flag. I fucking love it. I love it.
The other interesting point on the whole Muslims are anti-gay and anti-women and da-da-da is that is the modern Republican Party. It's so ironic. People come to me like 20 years ago, I said some shitty things, which I've regretted many times, and people keep throwing it in my face. I always laugh and think, that was me 20 years ago. The funny thing is, if I said that stuff today, you would embrace me in the Republican Party. Like, all the things they pretend to hate Muslims for, they love. They're homophobic. They're misogynistic. Like, or their stereotype caricature of extremist Muslims is what MAGA is right now. So there's a great irony about, every accusation is a confession. And what you're accusing Muslims of being is what you actually are. Intolerant, bigoted, anti-democratic. Oh, you don't believe in democracy? That's MAGA. You don't support women's rights? That's MAGA. You're anti-gay? That's MAGA. Like, go down the list. All the things they accuse Muslims of actually apply to this party themselves. So it's sheer hypocrisy that they weaponize to go after minorities. And I would say this one day, I just want to be very clear. People saying, Mamdani doesn't represent most Muslims. A lot of Muslims struggle a great deal with gay rights. I just want to be very open, and gay marriage, right? As you know, growing up in the South, the Bible, the Quran, these are books that have very specific teachings and values on relationships. I just want to be open about that. But the reason why Muslims want to stand right now with other minority communities is it's not rocket science, right? We're all in this together. It's what I said at the start. There has to be solidarity. We're not going to throw the gay community under the bus, and I hope the gay community is not going to throw the Muslim community under the bus, because they're coming for all of us.
Right. I was going to ask you, and I follow you on Twitter, so I've seen.
I apologize in advance for that. You follow
No. I like it. But
you have to follow my rants.
No, but I like it because it's like, this is the most obvious thing in the world, but these people aren't getting it. But I know since Mamdani came on board, there's been a lot of Islamophobia, and you said it's really ramped up. Between the time you got in the United States, or what you said right before Trump came down the escalator,
2015,
to now, I feel like, from my very white, privileged woman view, that racism has become kind of like emboldened, empowered against all, sex, race, religion. Have you noticed an uptick, or has it been the same?
No, 100%. It's gotten worse. And it's one of the most troubling parts of the last decade, which is, as Jennifer pointed out earlier, Donald Trump brought out the worst in people, right? The single biggest legacy of Donald Trump, aside from a 6-3 Supreme Court, is that he has emboldened these people. Like, historians will come back, if we have historians, they will write about this era as the era in which he basically allowed the worst people to crawl out from under rocks where they had been pushed to by the civil rights movement, by all the progress we made on race and gender and rights. And that's what depresses me most. It's the big picture. Donald Trump could disappear tomorrow, and what he has unleashed cannot be put back in the bottle, right? The racist genie is out of the bottle. The undermining, all these taboos we created around race, certain things you can't say, you shouldn't do. That's all kind of gone. He has single-handedly kind of broken it down. And we're in a very, very dark place. And if you look at, you look at that young Republicans chat that came out recently. Some of them weren't so young, of course. But it's not surprising to those of us who've watched the last 10 years. There's an entire generation of young people, especially young white men, who have known nothing but Donald Trump, right? That is what they think a leader is. That is what they think an American is. That is what they think is how they should behave. That is how they think they should speak. That is what they think they have permission to say. I don't think you can unroll a decade of Trump. The cultural, social impact of Trump is so massive that it's going to be with us for many, many decades to come. I don't think we can just unwind this. It's going to have to be redoing the 1960s onwards all over again if we can even pull that off in a social media age where everyone's in their echo chambers. So it is very depressing to see how bigotry has been mainstreamed, how everything that you thought. I mean, let me give you one example. In the first term, Donald Trump said, hey, the squad should go back to the countries they came from. Right? It was one of the most racist things he said in his first term. And that was about Ilhan Omar, AOC, Ayanna Pressley, Rashida Tlaib, 3 of whom are born in the United States, all 4 of whom are citizens. It was a controversy for a while, right? Oh, he said something racist. He was asked to challenge it. Today, that seems quaint. Today, they're like, deport everyone, deport Mamdani, deport Ilhan Omar. So like they keep ramping up, and the Overton window of what is acceptable to say or not to say keeps moving further and further to the far right. And you're emboldening all of these white. Look, just this week, we had Tucker Carlson host Nick Fuentes, right? That kind of stuff, even that would have been seen as crazy 5 years ago. Today, it's like, oh, that was expected.
Yeah. And it's just so, there's so many sub stories to the cultural breakdown. Like if you think about Pete Hegseth's pastor that was on 60 Minutes that talked about women losing the right to vote and death penalty for homosexuals, that I can say tying it back to Christians' views of Islam and the Muslim faith. Where we grew up, Ryan Walters, he was I'm sure you've heard of him, the superintendent.
The superintendent, yeah.
Yeah, they are really, they're the Christian Taliban. They want a Christian nationalist country. They want to force in the most toxic, codependent way their religion, their form of white evangelicalism onto
which
everybody.
they don't practice. Let's just be clear, right? They are
No,
often
of course
exposed.
they don't.
They're often exposed as hypocrites in their private lives, and in their public lives, as you pointed out, they support policies that demonize the people Jesus championed.
All right, now we're going to play our world famous game called Had It or Hit It. Mehdi, had it or hit it, Jerry Seinfeld.
Oh. Had it. Can't stand Jerry Seinfeld. I grew up watching Jerry Seinfeld. He was the least funny member of that show to begin with. And now in his old age, he's become this kind of genocidal, smirking ghoul who goes around blindly supporting Israel, saying ridiculous things like the Free Palestine movement's worse than the Ku Klux Klan. Jerry, you were the worst member of Seinfeld, and you're a worse human being now.
I like it. All right. Had it or hit it, domestic air travel.
Oh, I've had it with domestic air travel. I travel every weekend. I travel all the time. Domestic air travel in this country, I don't know why it hasn't radicalized Americans onto the streets. And don't tell me, it's only because a minority of Americans fly. A lot of millions of Americans fly. It is horrifically bad. I can't tell you how bad it is compared to other countries. I'm fed up of the delays. I'm fed up of the cancellations. I'm fed up of the shitty airports. Donald Trump was right. There you go. That's the only time I'll ever say it. Donald Trump was right. In 2016, when he ran for president, he said, we have shitty airports compared to the rest of the world. It was the only true thing he said when he ran for president in 2016. I've had it with.
And think about one thing that he did that should tell every working class MAGA person that voted for him. The Biden administration made it to where if the airlines canceled your flight or it was delayed, that you got a refund.
Yep.
He immediately reversed that. Reversed it.
And then fired a bunch of air traffic controllers, and now we seem to have more accidents.
They're such dipshits.
Dumb.
It's just, you know what pisses me off? Just the celebrating of the villains. And then that our villains are total dipshits. Yes. I'm like, we're losing to these fucking dorks.
Yes, which brings us full circle to we're losing to them because the other side is led by Chuck Schumer and Hickey.
Fuck. Bipartisan dorks is what they are. All right.
That's
moving
generous.
along. Had it or hit it, Antifa.
Hard to describe. What is Antifa? I don't know what it is.
I am
one's told me what
Antifa.
it is.
I am Antifa. I am anti-fascist.
Yeah, I mean, if you're anti-fascist, then obviously I would hit it. I mean, I've spent my life opposing fascism, both abroad and at home. America has a long, glorious history of stopping fascism in the World War II. But if it's just kind of amorphous, weird group that they've decided is this boogeyman. They said recently, oh, we found the wife or the girlfriend of the founder of Antifa. I'm like, who's the founder
She's
of
so
Antifa?
full of
Winston
shit.
Churchill. Like, who is the founder? Is it FDR? Like, who is the founder of Antifa? I don't know who that is. It doesn't exist. It is a classic boogeyman from these people. They're not even trying. Like, they just made up this group that has everyone. People don't walk around with an Antifa membership badge. They're like, I'm Antifa. It just doesn't exist. Good luck with that.
It's amazing. Like, he's done executive orders going against Antifa. And I'm like, it's not real. You don't sign your name. It's crazy.
I know. You know what is real? The Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys and all these militiamen that he pardoned and commuted sentences for on January 20th, and which the Democrats never went after with the same vigor they should have gone after.
Think about this, Mehdi. We are from Oklahoma City. I was there, and so was Pops, when the federal building was bombed by right-wing.
Yeah, and they blamed Muslims, by the way,
extremists,
when they didn't know who it was.
Yeah, they did.
Timothy McVeigh and these other connected right-wing, white rage male extremists, okay? And after that, and you're talking about, there was a daycare in the Alfred P. Murrah building on the first floor. I'll never forget, firemen were carrying out little babies' bodies. And since that happened, that state continues to vote for every single county, all red, for a political party that provides cover for right-wing extremism. The success and the ambition of that movement to radicalize people against their country, against their best interests, has been breathtaking. They have been incredibly successful.
Their ability to then project onto the other side everything they're doing. So they go around after Charlie Kirk's thing. The other side are domestic terrorists. The other side are inciting terrorism. The other side are extremists. When they're actually describing themselves, it is messaging genius, evil genius messaging.
It really is. Okay, last one. Two more. This is a really good one. Okay, had it or hit it, the Louvre heist.
Oh, I would say, if I say hit it, people are going to say, it's because they were Algerians and he supports the Muslim. But come on, it was super entertaining.
I thought so too.
Come on, a daylight robbery at a place that was like in the what's the Netflix show, which I never watched, that everyone kept pointing to, which was about the people robbing the Louvre. Like, anyone who watches a good crime caper cannot not enjoy that news story.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it because it was a respite from like the crime that's happening that everybody's normalizing in our country. And I was like, okay, this is a classic crime. Like they had their plan. They had the cherry picker thing. They knew what they were going to get. It was organized. For me, it was just a very welcomed respite because in
a world of incompetence, we saw some competence.
It was well executed, cleverly designed. Yeah.
But
get them to do the White House ballroom.
Yeah. But did you guys see where they were going down in the cherry picker and they dropped the crown and then they were unable to retrieve
I
it?
didn't see that bit.
So they drop the crown. It goes in between these two fences, and the people that worked at the Louvre found the crown. Okay.
All I saw that there were some Algerians involved. And as a Muslim, whenever there's a crime committed, every Muslim texts each other and says, I hope it's not a Muslim. Please don't be a Muslim. Right. That's our reaction to any crime anywhere in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Last one. Had it or hit it, the United States of America.
Oh, no, hit it. I'm not going to give up on the US yet, just because some freaks think that they can end constitutional democracy and end America before its 250th birthday. I've spent the last week fighting with crazy right-wingers online telling me I'm not a real American. And all I think to myself is, I'm way more American than you because I actually believe in what America stands for. You want to turn it into some fascist, theocratic dictatorship. I actually believe in free speech. I actually believe in free and fair elections. I actually believe in equality before the law. So, ironically, here I am going around quoting Ronald Reagan, who famously said that America, unlike other countries, I hated Reagan growing up. I was a child of the 80s. But here I am saying Ronald Reagan was right. See, on your show today, I've said Donald Trump was right once. Ronald Reagan was right. He said that unlike other countries, you don't move to another country and become that citizenship immediately. In America, you do. If you sign up, if you take your oath, if you're loyal to the country, if you believe in the Constitution, you are an American. As much as these MAGA people want to pretend that America is a white Christian country, that is not what the founders intended. That is not what the Constitution says. And therefore, no, I have not given up on America. I will fight to keep America democratic and free as long as I can.
I just want you to know, I know this won't provide comfort, but I just want to point out that the same people that tell you that you're not a real American, they also go after the white women that were born. I was born in Dallas and Pumps in Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
They tell us that we're not real Americans as well. So for them, their definition of being an American is thinking exactly like they do, which is the most un-American
Yes.
starting point that you can ever have. Okay, Mehdi Hassan, this was so great. I hope we
Thank you so
collab
much.
more and more.
Yes.
It was great.
I would love to. Thanks so much for having me. Great conversation.
Yes. All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. I just think he's so smart. I could talk to him for like 2 hours.
I could talk to him for hours, and I was this close. I mean, this close from saying, Mehdi, I know you and Jennifer are social media friends, and I want you to be my social media friend. But I thought that might just look a little bit desperate because I'm so fucking jealous. So jealous.
Nope. He's really, one thing that he does, I never do this. I don't fight with people online just for my serenity. Like I have a Twitter, but I have it locked. And I don't communicate with anybody on Twitter. I just use it to mine for information. And then I don't really ever read my Instagram comments anymore, and I never get on TikTok. Just because I think if I was fighting with people online and then I also had to consume the news, I think it would fuck with my serenity too much. So I admire the people that can, like that he can actually get in there and engage with those people, because I can't do it. I got an email. They asked me to be on Jubilee, and I think Mehdi had done it. I should have asked him about it.
What is it?
But Jubilee is where they put you in the center and then there's Trump supporters and you debate with them. And I just thought, I've been doing that my whole life in Oklahoma.
Right.
Like, I don't know, but I admire him for all of it.
Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Patriots, gay triots, they triots, black triots, brown triots, and the people that marginalize and pick on those people can do what, Pumps?
Fuck off! When I was in Chicago, I was walking downtown and somebody just walked by and said, fuck off.
Oh my God. That's such a great exchange. Like I listened to your podcast. I know what you do. That's perfect.
Yeah, I loved it. Which, by the way, I spent a night in Chicago. We walked like 5 miles in downtown Chicago. In fact, it's not a war zone. It's actually quite lovely. Despite popular reports by the administration, it was wonderful and peaceful and enjoyable.
I love a big city, and this attack on blue cities is so insane, especially considering all of the suburban and rural areas that need the tax dollars from these cities to function. Right. And so it's just so idiotic, like so many things that they do. And these fascists are just more than I can take. All right, Pumps, what have you had it with?
Well, along those lines, I have had it with the President of the United States and everyone surrounding him acting like petulant children. For example, Caroline KKK Levitt, in responding to a question, says, your mom. Like your mom did. These people are the biggest bottom feeders. They wouldn't even make JV's JV team of political operatives. And so what I've had it with is the dumbest people in the United States of America being in power. And we are celebrating stupid people right now.
So there's actually something to this, Pump. So the authoritarian, which unfortunately, as we all know, is Kanks, has to be the smartest guy in the room. We've all heard him talk, right?
Right.
We've all heard him drone on and on and on about IQ tests and dementia tests and animal identification tests. Look, I nailed picking a giraffe out on a piece of paper. So we know that he's not very bright. So nobody can outshine him in that. So what remains are, I think we're getting into double-digit IQ people here. For example, your example of Caroline KKK, I wear my crucifix cross, Levitt. She doesn't have the intelligence or the emotional intelligence or the critical thinking skills to deduce. I'm part of a movement that likes to say, what would Jesus do? While at the same time, I lie nonstop 24/7, 365 to protect a group of pedophiles and pedophile protectors, which I don't think Jesus would want me to do. And I'm answering text messages with your mom, which I don't know. I'm not a Christian, Pumps, but you used to be one. I would reckon that's not very Christ-like. And so you have just a lot of dipshits. And listener, on our other podcast, we decided dipshit didn't go far enough. So we're going to replace the word dipshit with the word fucktwats. Because dipshit it wasn't enough.
No.
And Caroline Levitt is what, Pumps? She's a fucktwat. And then Pete Hegseth is a fucktwat. Yeah. And Dumb and Dumber are fucktwats. So I agree with you. I mean, it's so horrible to see stupid people in charge of very important positions.
It's really like, especially when I think about like what other countries think of our leadership. I'm sure it's what we think about Benjamin Netanyahu or Viktor Orban, just complete and total corrupt criminals. And that's where we are. And at one point, is the United States have a history of a lot of really bad mistakes? Yes. But at least we valued expertise, decency, and now I feel like it's just, I'm going to be the biggest dick on the planet because I am so insecure. And we're going to pretend like the United States government is a WWE ring. And it's just, it's beneath all of us. I feel like it's just beneath us.
So you said what other countries think. And for pre-Donald Trump, other countries thought of Americans as being arrogant, loud, and trashy. And our leadership didn't always match up with the population. There was a sense of decency and decorum. And now the leadership matches the caricature in which our population has been defined.
Yep.
Arrogant, loud, prude, hypocritical, not critical thinkers, ethnocentric. And Donald Trump is the manifestation of all of the worst parts of our culture brought to light. He represents the worst facets of American culture, and every culture has components to it that are, defects. And Donald Trump has rounded up all of the defects that as a culture we have created, and he represents all of them on steroids. And now we unfortunately have a leader that reflects the worst impulses of Americans. And the fact that Americans go around thinking like that he says, we're respected in the world now. Our country's on fire. We were a dead country. When the evidence points to the contrary, and again, he's got all of these, he's low IQ and he's surrounded by even lower IQ people because nobody can outshine the fucktwat in charge. The HFTIC, the head fucktwat in charge. Nobody can outshine him. So you've got a bunch of fucktwats. Nobody's telling him, hey, you're actually wrong about that. Our popularity globally is plummeting and people think you are a fascist and a dictator. But nobody will tell him that because it's all circle jerk of fucktwattery on steroids.
That's asking too much of the people surrounding him. They haven't told him he, in fact, did not settle 8 wars. They have not, in fact, told him the difference between an insane asylum and people seeking asylum. So the popularity of him in the United States and abroad seems like way too big of a stretch if we can't do these little bitty things.
All right. So let me tell you what I've had it with. I've had it with being in a position as a podcaster, as a progressive podcaster, and as a Democrat, where a lot of the Democratic establishment leadership is so impotent that we have to spend time criticizing them when we should all be united against fascism. And we should all be united in upholding universal human rights. And instead, when we have a senator on the show that's an establishment Democrat or a congressperson that's an establishment Democrat. We have to talk to them about their corporate donors, and we have to get word salad answers. And this is not the time for that. I've had it. I ran into a guy on the street the other day in New York. He had a Frenchie. I had my two Frenchies. And he was like, hey, I love listening to you. Keep going after those establishment Democrats, like the Bookers, the Jeffries, the Schumers. They're the ones who are selling us down the river right now. And I said, yeah, I know. And my heart kind of sank, because those are the people that should be morally shining. Their fight and their plight against this regime should be outstanding. It should, every time they're at the podium and they're not up there enough, it should be an all-out assault. And to the MAGA people listening, I'm not talking about a physical assault, you fuck twats. I'm talking about a verbal assault. So Fox News, you don't have to go on a 24-hour bender saying Jennifer Welch wants to kill conservatives, because I don't. I want your fat asses to have health care. But I digress. So they should be verbally assaulting these people, because as we mentioned earlier with your grievance, they're not smart. No. It's a very simple thing to point out that Caroline Leavitt is a complete propagandist, hypocrite with the maturity of a 9-year-old. It is obvious to point out that Donald Trump is flailing, is in mid to late stage dementia, can't walk in a straight line, rolls out the red carpet to murderous regimes, kisses a war criminal's ass when he should have him arrested. These should be very simple things to point out. But when you're the leader of a party and you take money from the same organization, and I'm talking about AIPAC, and AIPAC spent the same amount of money electing Donald Trump that Elon Musk did. If it would be a conflict of interest, Booker, Hakeem, and Chuckles, to take money from Elon Musk, which I think it would be toxic and electoral death sentence, it equally should be with AIPAC. And if you notice the Democrats that are having a problem leading right now, the common thread that I've seen in all of these people pumps is AIPAC donations. And then they're unable to have moral clarity about the Israeli government. And it's a very simple statement to make, that we stand against anti-Semitism, we stand against Islamophobia, homophobia, we stand against all forms of bigotry, because we believe in universal human rights. Benjamin Netanyahu and his military don't believe in universal human rights. And in fact, the BBC has reported that a lot of children, Palestinian children, when they did autopsies in them, I think the number is 170 or 180, had bullet wounds in their chest or in their head. And we're funding that. And so that should be a real layup morally to speak about. Also, the fact that Benjamin Netanyahu would not take Joe Biden's same ceasefire deal.
Right.
But he took it for the fuck twat kinks. No problem. And so when you're taking money from the people that want to get fascists elected and want to tear down democracy, you're not a credible messenger. This isn't a purity test. This is, are you a credible messenger? Can you walk the walk and talk the talk? We don't have to agree on 100% everything, but I would just think executing little kids, right, would be a deal breaker. That call me crazy.
Well, putting pedophiles in jail should be something we all agree on. Trafficking children, everybody should agree on that, but we don't. And I think you make such a good point, and you put it in such a great, very eloquently stated, because it would be so nice that we never had to question the leadership that we had in the Democratic Party right now, because it's a very overwhelming and scary time. And that we could all, every single person in the party, unite with a single message and behind leaders. But it's like they're holding on to what lost us the House, the Senate, and the presidency last time. And I don't see it getting better. Hopefully
what they're hanging on to is corporate donations. And specifically, the more and more you look into it, all roads kind of lead to this AIPAC situation. And the Democrats are all united on releasing the Epstein files. We're united on so many things. I mean, Hakeem Jeffries just last week was calling Moses Mike Grinder Johnson and Kanks that they were running a pedophile protection project. I loved it. All props to Hakeem on that. He has had a really hard time endorsing Mamdani. He has a hard time answering questions about what the future of the Democratic Party is because he's beholden to the same corporations that fund and want Donald Trump and or Donald Trump affiliate style candidates to reign, because they will help unregulated capitalism dick over the working class, and they provide a common enemy for everyone to rally around, which during the election, the common enemy were trans people and immigrants. And now we've moved on to the common enemy being from within.
Right.
Being the people that go to the No Kings March. And so it's just, it's insane. And I expect every single thing that I get from a MAGA politician. I expect the low IQ, sophomoric, juvenile responses from Caroline Leavitt. I expect Pete Hegseth to be a drunk ass texting chats and war plans in Signal. I expect the Senate and the House to not do a goddamn thing about it, the Republicans in the Senate and the House, because they are fucking pussies. I expect all of that, but I refuse to lower my standards for the Democratic establishment. And I think that that's where the pressure needs to be applied the most. They are disconnected from where the electorate is. And if they are looking at focus groups and statisticians, and I just read a report the other day that a report came out from a focus group hired by the DNC or some Democratic strategy that the Democrats needed to talk less about LGBTQ plus issues. And I just think if y'all are going to listen to this shit and you're going to play pick me politician, nobody's going to like you. Nobody will like you. If you start throwing groups of people under the bus, you're fucked. And if you lead with an economic populist message and the right responds with, well, I don't want these, bathrooms and these sports issues. And then you say, whatever you want to believe about that is your business. But in our political party, we don't bully people, and our financial equality message and making sure that billionaires pay what needs to be paid, making sure that we put regulations on capitalism so there aren't cancer clusters and deaths popping up all over the place and Boeings falling out of the sky, applies to everybody, even the people you hate. Because at some point, white, MAGA, triple Trumper, somebody you hate might be a family member. Right. Somebody might give birth to a gay kid or a trans kid, or your grandkid might marry a black person. And so we're going to just stay here and fight for all of these universal human rights through our message of economic equality as best we can. And if you want to hate on people and you want to buy into all of that, swing for the fences. We disagree with you. You even make us sick, but we're still going to fight for your right to not have to file medical bankruptcy. And I've just, at the end of my ropes with the ambiguity from Democratic leadership. And it is just more maddening than what's happening with MAGA, because I expect it from these people. I grew up in a red state. None of this is a surprise to me. Donald Trump's song and pony routine is the same shit that it was 10 years ago. I can't even hardly listen to his press conferences anymore because of the sheer boredom of it, because he can't diversify his crazy game at all. It's the same old, tired, boring shit with a lot more dementia sprinkled in. It's not even entertaining. It's not even, it doesn't even really evoke that much emotion from me anymore, other than to say, is this all he has? Is this all he can do? All right. Welcome to I've Had It. I'm Jennifer.
I'm Angie. HBIC stands for Beaver.
Head Beaver in charge. We have a producer named Kylie. Kylie.
Hi. I have to show you guys, and I'll describe it for the listener, what Anna got me. It's a chapstick, and it says Beaver Liquors. Beaver Balm. And then it says, for the softest beaver lips guaranteed.
That's a pretty lesbian purchase.
Beaver Liquors.
Beaver Liquors. I think that's about the gayest lip balm I've ever seen.
I like it. Is it good lip balm?
It's basic. It's like chapstick lesbian vibe.
Okay. Well, I love a chapstick, so.
Okay, I've got.
Pumps, wait, hang on. I have to tell you. Pumps, I started a rumor when you went to Maine on the podcast when Josh subbed for you that you went to Maine on a lesbian trip. I just thought it was exciting.
Well, that would be the most exciting thing that would have happened to me.
And then you posted the picture of you and your girlfriends, and y'all were wearing like flannels and stuff. Did you notice the picture, Kylie?
My girlfriend that moved up there, she drives. So we're driving around in our full flannel gear. She drives a humongous white pickup truck because they have all this lumber and they're constantly. So here we are, the four of us driving around in a pickup truck all over Maine. Yeah. I consider it a compliment to be called a lesbian. Thank you very much. We know that
You're
all
welcome.
Lesbians should be in
I
charge
just thought
of
it was fun to kind of start a little rumor.
Yeah. And that would mean I would have had sex.
It's not that far-fetched because she was on a girls' trip that one time, you remember, and she came home. She said, Kylie, I was on that girls' trip and we couldn't figure out how to work the vibrator.
That's true. That is true. But it wasn't like we were going to use it. I had just said,
sure.
I got this vibrator. I don't know how to use it.
That's what I do with my girlfriends.
Turn it on, bring it on the trip, and we'll figure it out. None of us could figure it out. But I don't know how to, and maybe if we'd been able to turn it on, we would have used it. You never know.
Okay, I've got a 1-star review titled Wow. And they write, definitely poster children for the failures of the American education system. Dumb, political, dumb.
Okay.
That's called projection.
I'm going to say, and I've said this before, I am never not surprised by the intensity and action people take about something they believe is dumb or stupid.
Right.
Like if I think something is dumb or stupid, I think the thought and then I let it go. I don't dig around the internet to go troll on ratings, like people that write, 2 and 3 star reviews on Yelp. And then you go and look and they're like a expert Yelper, 500 posts, and it's like some people, that's their whole identity. And a couple of weeks ago, I was like looking at my Instagram and it was just like, die. We hope you get Charlie Kirk, all this shit. It's why you were on your lesbian trip to Maine. So I text Kylie and I was like, hey, am I going viral somewhere or something? And she goes, oh yeah. Yeah. Fox.
What was it?
They said that I wanted to kill conservatives.
And Democrats, which was odd.
And Democrats, which of course I don't. Like I don't even have a gun. I hate violence, whatever. But they took a clip of something was said in I Hip News out of context. And so it just goes on all day. And then of course they find your kids. So I was talking to my son last night and he goes, Mom, were you going viral or something last week? And I go, oh God, I'm so sorry. And he goes, yeah, I got some DMs. And I always respond, typical MAGA pedo coming into some kid's DM and then blocks them. Pretty clever of my child, but it's true.
Really clever.
Okay, I've got a 5-star review. This one is titled Refreshing Honesty, and they write, these hosts are the only people showing MAGA the energy they deserve. So naturally, the 1-star patriots are crying. I love the honesty. It's giving me the confidence to tell the truth to the snowflake, stupid losers in my life.
Love it.
Love it. Love it. As we've mentioned, it should be a layup to call these people out because they're, number one, they're so stupid. Number two, they stand up for really bad ideas that we've already evolved past. And if your whole identity is trolling the internet, writing 1-star reviews or finding some podcaster's children online and just, and your bio is like, Christian, patriot, badass. everybody knows you're a fucking nightmare. I mean, I know for sure if somebody puts their faith in their bio that they are the biggest nightmare on the planet.
Absolutely. I mean, if you have to tell me how Christian you are, I immediately know you suck.
Oh, here's another one. When you were on your lesbian trip to Maine, Riley Gaines. Remember when we popped off on Riley Gaines?
Yes.
So then she responds that she's, quote, praying for us. And here's the thing with Riley Gaines. Riley Gaines, you are a walking, talking, breathing embodiment of exactly why someone should not be a Christian.
Right.
Your, what's it called? Walk with Christ or testimony or witnessing?
Witness to or give
her
testimony.
Witnessing or whatever. It's like to see somebody like her, that her whole identity is she finds her worth as a woman through marriage. And then she encourages other people, like, this is how you can find your worth. For some people, that's a great component. My marriage is a great component of happiness in my life. But this projection that everybody has to live her hypocritical Christian life, Riley Gaines, when she doesn't give a shit about kids losing SNAP benefits. She doesn't give a shit about the overt racism. She's never thought deep enough to think, could my kid be gay? And if my kid was gay, am I a big enough girl to put on my big girl panties to love my child through this? And it's just this knee-jerk faux Christianity that is this, centimeter deep only. And when I see the Riley Gaines of the world, and it's always looped into like her biblical worldview and all of this shit.
Biblical worldview.
I think you are a walking, talking advertisement on why not to be a Christian.
Yes.
I mean, there's no empathy. There's no room that maybe not everybody's the same. There's no desire when you see injustice and the bullying of other human beings to put your body in front of that and stop it. And so she's a fucktwat.
She's a fucktwat that came in fifth. I mean, her claim to fame is coming in fifth in a swim race. Fifth.
She also, like, if you notice, like people on Fox will say Olympic medalist, and she never corrects them, which I don't think is very Christ-like to let a lie like that.
No. They say she's an Olympic medalist on Fox. Why am I surprised? They like nonstop.
Yeah. All right. So Kylie, do we have any news?
I do. I've got a couple news stories. The first one is not shocking, and it says study shows America is officially one of the least peaceful places on earth. A new study revealed the U.S. ranks among the least peaceful countries in the world, citing issues such as crime, political instability, and high incarceration rates as leading factors.
I mean, the incarceration rates were something that I became privy to probably 15, 20 years ago. And because we have privatized the prisons, there is a financial incentive to incarcerate people. And it's jarring how much more citizens we incarcerate than even the most like conservative Sharia law type places on the planet. The United States incarceration rates are bananas.
Well, and, when you think about, there are as many guns in the United States as there are people. Like
there's more.
So there's more guns in the United States than people. And there's school shootings. You have military in the streets with huge guns. Like, it's the guns, people. That doesn't surprise me at all with the political unrest. We've got National Guard ramming cars into other people, with masks on, like, doesn't surprise me in the least. And I tend to agree, because when you have signs outside businesses in Oklahoma City that says you can't bring a gun in here, it's off the fucking rails.
Okay, I've got another one. This one is man who faked being a lawyer won all 26 of his cases before being arrested. And this says, in a story that sounds straight out of a movie, a man posing as a lawyer reportedly won 26 cases in court before they caught on. According to the reports, the imposter gained a strong following after repeatedly outperforming licensed attorneys in high-stakes case, earning him the nickname the real-life Saul Goodman. His success stunned both clients and judges before he was finally exposed and arrested.
That is hilarious. And I love how, Pumps, I wish that in the US, how in the UK, the barristers have to wear the wigs. I think that would have been a really good look for you in divorce court with your gray wig on.
Well, I kind of have it, except if I didn't dye my hair, I'd be wearing it right now. Yeah. And I like that the lawyers get to wear the judges' robes. I think that's cool.
I do too. Yeah,
So,
I like it. It feels more legit. All right, Pumps, I think it's time for our guest. You may remember the AI video after the No Kings rally when all of MAGA fucktwats were like, oh shit, like they really hate us. And this was a good rally and nobody got arrested and it was peaceful and everybody's dancing and dressed in costumes and fighting for democracy. So they do what mature leaders of any country would do is they make an AI video of the toxically masculine president wearing a queen's crown, photoshopped to be, I would say, 40, 50 pounds thinner than what he is in real life, and took off about 30, 40 years of him. Still look like shit for the record.
Yeah,
flying an airplane, which we all know he could never do, and dropping shit on people. And one of the people that he dropped the shit on in this AI video is our next guest. And he is Harry Sisson, and he is a left-wing political commentator and social media influencer. Harry Sisson, welcome to I've Had It.
Oh, God, I am so excited to be here with both of you. I love both of you. My mom loves both of you. She'll send me you guys like Instagram reels all the time. And brief moment of honesty here. I saw you guys at the DNC all the way back in 2024. And my mom was such fans of you then, but I didn't come up to you because you guys were in the kind of creator area. You looked a little stressed. So I was like, I'm not going to bother them. But it's so cool to be here.
Oh my gosh, the DNC was so fun.
Wasn't it?
We had so much hope. There was so much hope in that building.
Yeah, I mean, can't we just go back? You know what I mean? Like that feeling was so great. And I think everybody there really was hopeful. I think we all believed that we were going to win and finally put Trump into history. But unfortunately, we're here and we are dealing with, as you guys like to call them, kanks, big ankles, bruised hands, all that crap, you know?
Yeah. So, I mean, we were just talking about him beforehand, but I'm starting to see, and I'm curious before we ask you what your grievances are, I'm curious if you've started to notice this. I feel like the MAGA movement, with the exception of little Moses Mike Grinder Johnson, who will go down with the ship with kanks. Okay. He's not ever going to defect. Ever. He is going to go down. But I feel like a lot of the others are kind of moving on. I'm talking about Tucker Carlson, JD Vance, Marjorie Taylor Greene. They are starting to treat him like the dementia-ridden lame duck that he is. And I'm starting to see the curtains close, and I'm starting to see them jockey and position themselves for a post-Kanks, how are we going to keep this cult together regime?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I think that's both happening on an elected official level, but also like a voter level. So as you correctly pointed out, people like out of the blue, Marjorie Taylor Greene is like, I want people to have healthcare all of a sudden. It's
Crazy.
Wonder why you're doing that now. That's interesting. Just a complete 180. And so you're seeing that with Marjorie Taylor Greene and the other folks you mentioned. But even on a voter level as well, I mean, I think I just saw this poll the other day that young men especially have really swung back toward the Democrats. I think people that look like me, straight white young guys, are finally realizing that Donald Trump does not care about them. He's not fighting for them. All of the promises he made to execute on day one have completely failed. And I think it's happening just across the country, elected and voter,
Love it. All right. Harry Sisson, what have you had it with?
Well, look, should I start political or cultural? Because
let's do cultural first. And then once we get into political, we're going to beat the shit out of that dead horse.
Okay. That sounds good. So this actually connects to the conversation we just had. And it's more of a reflection of, again, people that look like me, young, straight, white guys. So I've had it, and this is a big one for me, with certain people saying that certain music is girly or not for everyone, that it's like gendered or you can't listen to it. And so, for example, people that say someone like Taylor Swift or Billie Eilish or the music they make. You can't listen to it if you're a guy. And my response, I think, is that these people are incredibly, incredibly talented. So you don't have to like their music. It doesn't have to be for you, but you can recognize their talent and recognize that maybe a guy that looks like you, plays football, goes to the gym, goes to bars, might be like, Taylor Swift is actually a really talented songwriter, and it's not girly per se or anything like that to listen to her and enjoy her expertise.
Yeah, I feel like we're all this sudden, and I really do think it's because of this MAGA movement, Project 2025, the trad wives. We're going back to, we have to have very defined gender roles. If you listen to that, you're effeminate. If you listen to this, you're masculine. And it's just, we've worked so hard to get past these stereotypical, ridiculous gender roles. And I just feel like and I know it's been long term, but it just seems like it's all come in crashing out during this regime.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I think it's kind of like an overused phrase, I guess, these days. And some people scoff at you when you say it, but it's a toxic masculinity that kind of comes with Donald Trump, supporting Donald Trump. There's, I think, a good way to be a man, like to operate in society, treat people well. And the bad way is everything that Donald Trump embodies, right? This kind of gendered society where you can only do X, Y, and Z if you're a woman or a man, and you have to fit this certain mold, which, by the way, Donald Trump doesn't fit any of that. He claims to be all healthy, and look at him. I mean,
Well, and he wears a full face of makeup every single day.
Yeah,
and he's anti-drag queen. You know what I mean? It's just JD Vance with the eyeliner. But in that vein, Harry, I read this article and I thought it was really interesting. So I've really been reading a lot and talking to this professor from NYU named Ruth Ben-Ghiat. And she talks about the strong man and how he has to project a certain level of masculinity. And this misogyny and homophobia are these main components of these autocrats. And the reason in that AI video that they picked you and you personally wasn't arbitrary. It was by design to send a signal to other young, progressive white men that they were pussies and or a piece of shit, or we will shit on you. It was totally a part of the authoritarian script in that stupid AI video to personally pull a young, white, male, popular liberal. It wasn't just arbitrary. And do you know anything about that? Or have you read that same article? I can't remember where I read that, but I thought it was fascinating.
No, that sounds fascinating. And if you get the opportunity, send us it afterwards. I'd love to read it. But I don't have like any background information on what Trump's thinking was when posting the video. I've tried. I've reached out to journalists who I know, and I'm like, can you please ask him or ask a source in the White House what the thinking was? And nobody's done it yet, which I think is yet another failure in our media. But aside from that, yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think there's two main points. I think it's, targeting young, straight white men who are meant to be their base. And so when they see someone like myself or my peers not falling in line, they think, oh, we're just going to attack them and intimidate them and whatever. Right. I think that's a really good point. But I also think
humiliate. It's a humiliation ritual. Yeah.
Exactly right. And coming from the guy with the largest audience in the United States, the president, right? Sitting in this huge office, attacking a private citizen who's like 60 years his junior or whatever it might be. So I think that's correct. And also the broader point in my view on this video is the attack on free speech. It's not just about, me. I happen to be in the video, but there are plenty of people behind me, in Manhattan protesting against him. And I think what Trump did with that video is make it abundantly clear how he feels about dissent and people saying, well, you can go fuck yourself,
Right. And I do think it's interesting to point out that he has become so unattractive and so advanced in his senior citizen dementia era that he really has to be photoshopped quite a bit, because to emit this strong man thing, he's out of shape. He has a pot belly. He has cankles. He has bruises on his hands. He has a neck vagine. His hair is like a swirly thing. So their only option is to Photoshop him. And if you notice, they Photoshop him in these homoerotic type roles. And I was talking to a couple of my gay friends over the weekend, and they said about the fighter pilot thing that it was very gay, that a lot of gay men at Halloween, and of course this is anecdotal evidence, their go-to costume is the Top Gun outfit. And so all roads always seem to lead back to this internalized homophobia with these MAGA men. And again, we are huge allies of the LGBTQ plus movement. And if somebody is passively having to live their life in the closet, all of the empathy and grace and support to those people. But these fucktwats are actively, demeaning the LGBTQ plus community, marginalizing, grifting off of them. And in the case of Lindsey Graham or Moses Mike Grinder Johnson or JD Vance, and this is just my opinion, and I've read about it on Elon Musk's free speech website, that they're fetishizing these people that they demean and weaponize against during the day. They're fetishizing those at night. And you can look no further to where bulks of them go and grinders crashing left and right. And so I think it's interesting how they game up a lot in these videos.
Yeah, I mean, that is such a good point. And also, every time there's a major Republican gathering, it's just coincidental that Grindr crashes.
Right.
Now, I'm not here to speculate, right? I'm not here to speculate as to what's taking place there, but that's a really good point. And you see it on the White House Twitter account, Instagram, whatever social media page. They post these really weird photos of Donald Trump, like riding a horse with a tank behind him. He's putting an American flag. It's so strange. And in addition to that, I get Republicans in my comments on Twitter, especially, making AI videos of me, a straight white guy, with other men, with other like elected officials, and I'm like, look, I say this to my friends. If you're taking time out of your day to go into an AI bot and be like, take Harry Sisson and make him make out with another man,
him gay, right?
There's something, and again, we're big allies.
Totally.
There's something you got to be honest about here,
Right. You're lying to yourself.
You're lying to. And if you have that in your phone, you're storing it of these, people in social media doing this stuff. That, look, I'm not gonna spec, but you got to be honest with yourself. There's something taking place.
I just think if you look at how much that party talks about the LGBTQ plus community, they get triggered by rainbow flags.
Yes.
And you were talking about they were triggered by Billie Eilish or Taylor Swift, but also throw in Bad Bunny. These people operate from a position of fear. They're scared of a straight, white progressive. They're scared of the now liberal white women are ruining democracy. They're scared of Bad Bunny. They're scared of comedians. They're scared of Cracker Barrel. They're scared of The Little Mermaid.
They're scared of you guys.
On and on. Yes, I've had it, ladies.
Yeah.
These people, their default setting is this debilitating fear, yet they have to project this crazy masculinity that's so toxic. And then when you start deep diving into this, one of their big influencers, Benny Johnson, kind of outed himself with the gay cruise thing. And I just think, and I'm an interior designer when I'm not a podcaster. So I've hung around a gaggle of gay men my entire adult life. They don't talk about gay shit as much as MAGA talks about gay shit. It's unbelievable. And that's so fascinating that they make AI videos of you doing gay stuff, because clearly that's the shame and the repressed sexuality is a huge component, I think, of this regime.
If you are ever bored one night and you just want to look into the mind of these MAGA losers, just, go into my Twitter comments and you'll see AI photos of me in this skin tight leather. Or
I'm going to do it the minute we finish recording. It's not going to be bored. I'm going to prioritize this to the top of my to-do list, Harry.
It's so my comment section on Twitter's the worst platform. Obviously, it's run by this weirdo Musk, who's constantly high. But yeah, if you just take a look at my Twitter, you will see the craziest, most unimaginable shit in there that any sane person that is functioning in society would not be able to think of. They're just freaks.
Right.
They're freaks.
Right. Like a normal person is not rolling around thinking about putting Harry Sisson in, lycra.
A unitard.
And the AI who sat there? I want to know who sat there and put Donald Trump in a fighter jet shitting on Harry Sisson and other people. I need to know who came up with that prompt and what they've been diagnosed with that makes them so weird and something that and act in this way. It's crazy.
Oh, I know what they're diagnosed with.
Okay.
These are religious addicts that probably have some sort of sexual shame. And then oftentimes when they're not praying, they find themselves on Pornhub and they're looking at things that they think might be sinful. And it's just this, this crazy, crazy pattern. And I think a lot of these people think, okay, we can do all of this stuff, particularly like Moses Mike Grinder Johnson and some of the Supreme Court justices who have been just so fundamentally disappointing. I always think, what's the rub? Because everything they're doing is so anti-Christ-like. And I think that they think they've been such personal failures for themselves and they have so much guilt and shame from their religion that they think, okay, I can do all this stuff. Gay stuff and other stuff, fly crazy flags and do all this mean stuff if I deliver America to Jesus. And I think that's literally what they believe. I think that's kind of what we're dealing with is this crazy Christian cult. And listener, if you're a Christian light, I'm not talking about you, but every religion has these fanatics and America has a crazy Christian problem. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, totally. And in addition to that, I also think we have, I think a lot of America's problems can be boiled down to very small, very insecure, egotistical men in power. I really believe that. I think, and they have self-confidence issues. They have never been happy in their own skin. They have never accepted who they are, whether they be gay, straight, whatever, whoever they are. They've never accepted who they are. They've always been unhappy and they take that sadness out on other people. And I think Donald Trump is that kind of narcissistic psychopath. But I also fundamentally believe that Trump is incredibly unhappy. And then he takes his anger out on other people.
What about Stephen Miller? What do you think about him? You think he's a sociopath?
Here's what I want for Stephen. Yes. And here's what I want for Stephen Miller. The White House has been talking about this UFC event that they're going to have for the 250th anniversary on the White House lawn.
Yeah.
I boxed for 4 years. I want to fight Stephen Miller at the UFC event. I want them to make it happen. Get me in there with Stephen Miller. He talks such a big talk on Twitter, and I want these elected officials participating in this UFC event on their front lawn. And I choose Stephen Miller. I bid on Stephen Miller for the fight, please. That's what I want.
Harry, I love it and I support it. Okay, let's shift gears here really quick. And before you came on, we were talking about MAGA is what MAGA is. And there are dipshits and fuck twats and all the stuff we talk about. And you can rinse and repeat and they do the same shit over and over because they're painfully unoriginal, right? Yeah. But when it gets to the Democrats, I am really, really frustrated, not with all, but with a lot in leadership that they are ambiguous about positions that they need to have. And that I feel like they are compromised by the same entities that paid hundreds of millions of dollars to get Trump elected, which is AIPAC, paid the exact same amount that Elon Musk paid. And when we ask them direct questions about this, we get bullshit answers. And I can't think of anything more toxic that a Democrat could do right now would be to take donations from Elon Musk, who gave over $300 million to Trump to get him elected. AIPAC gave over $300 million to Kanks to get him elected. And somehow we're crazy or anti-Semitic or just don't get it if we call them out on that. And I just am at my wits' end with it. And so I want to know what your take is on that.
Yeah, well, I first of all loved, and I like Cory Booker. For the record,
I do too.
I like Cory Booker,
him too.
But I loved your clip with him. If you know what I'm talking about, where you talked to him about this, and he kind of, again, I love Cory Booker. Please don't hate me. Where he was kind of gave that politician-esque answer when you asked him about this, and Jennifer, you were just like, "That's total bullshit." You know what I mean? That's just total bullshit. And I really appreciate that. And I think that's kind of the way we have to approach it. I think going into 2028 or even 2026, there should not be a single Democrat who takes money from AIPAC. If they want to win. I mean, they can do the risk return calculation in their head as, I can take this money and put X amount of advertisements out, but it is so toxic for the brand now. And for them to then, it's not just taking the money, right? Taking the money is one thing, but then they get on on your show or other people's show. And then when they're asked about it, they give that kind of bullshit answer. And people who are frustrated right now in our base can see right through it. And they don't want that. They don't want the tiptoeing, dancing around. They want the authenticity. And so, no, I mean, I agree. I just don't think that going into any future election, any Democrat can take it until further notice, at least.
I agree. And I like Cory Booker too. But I feel like at this stage in this coup that you have to be the most credible messenger that you can be. And if your response to a podcaster is, oh, these purity tests, and it's like, it's not a purity test, dude. We just see you being hypocritical about something and we want to call you out. And I think Democrats like Cory Booker, Hakeem, Chuckles, they need to do more podcasts and they need to put themselves through the grinder. We have all these nicknames for all of them.
I just love them. I love it. Go ahead. Sorry.
They need to put themselves through the grinder. And this is what MAGA does. And if you misstep and you realize, oh shit, that didn't play very well, I need to take another look at this. And it makes you a better candidate and it makes us a better political party. That's the epicenter of democracy, feedback. And then here's another thing I'm noticing about the Democrats. Like, I feel like our party, we need to be the party of evolution. And I'm not talking about the Charles Darwin type. I'm talking about like, okay, we did the whole corporate thing after Citizens United. It fucked the working class. It left this vacuum. We need to get off that tit. We thought it was going to be okay. And we thought we could be pretty good at capitalism because it's Republican presidents that always tank the economy, not us. So we always had that. But we're leaving this vacuum. And grifters like Marjorie Taylor Greene can fill it, or Tucker Carlson, who I believe is going to run for president, can fill it. And we need to evolve and say, okay, that wasn't good. We're going to have to stop. And I feel like the Democratic establishment now reads like conservative, like that they want to preserve that system, like they're preservationists. And I not all of them. There's some that I just like. Bernie, love him. AOC, love. Crockett, love it. You know, there's some that I'm just like, love, love, love. But the ones that are in charge, I'm just like, what can we do to get them to not be in charge?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. We're just in such a weird moment with our leadership right now where it really feels, I think, for average people that if you are a Democrat, lifelong Democrat, been voting Democrat, that they don't feel like, number one, they're voting in favor of what you want to happen, but also number two, they're not standing up for you in the sense that they're not fighting against Trump. They're not standing up to these corporate PACs or this corporate money saying, we don't, this is not us. And I think you made a good point on the vacuum that's left. If both the Democrats and the Republicans are fully on the side of we're going to take money from all these huge corporations and we're going to use it to run our campaigns, people are not stupid. They will see that and they'll be like, well, these parties are the same. They're pissing me off. Right. And that's why both parties have such low approval ratings. And then you have, as you mentioned, someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who can take the populist approach, who has a big national figure, who's also Looney Tunes. And to average people, he might sound sane. And that's, right. We cannot allow that. We are shooting ourselves in the foot constantly. And it is so frustrating. I know you guys feel that frustration too, but it's just these missteps that we're making that are allowing these grifting, losing, I will be nice, these fuckers to win, That's
what I like, Harry. And, that's the thing about the Marjorie Taylor Greene. If you look at what she's doing right now, it's very politically savvy. We all know not to fall for it. But if you're a troll online and you're mainly looking at cats or whatever, and then all of a sudden something political pops up in your algorithm, and then you hear her say something that makes sense, but you're not a political junkie like the three of us. And you're like, oh, well, she doesn't seem to be as crazy as she used to be. And you live in a flyover state where Pumps and I are from, and people are heavily indoctrinated to be Republicans. You'll vote for a crazy Republican more than a sane Democrat any day. And I think that Democrats operate under what I call assumption politics. We assumed in 2016 that Hillary would win. We assumed in 2024, when it was high times at the DNC, when we didn't say hi to each other because we were having too much fun at those creator lounges, we assumed these people saw what happened on January 6th and they're not going to vote for him. And right now, the Democratic leadership is assuming that people are going to think Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tucker Carlson are too crazy, but they haven't learned their lesson. people will vote for a crazy Republican. Her, all of a sudden, like you said, her interest in healthcare and this message that she has, we're not America first. It seems like we're Israel first. Why do they get healthcare? And why do they have higher education? To a person that lives in flyover America, when they hear that, that is going to hit hard as fuck.
Yeah.
Her intention is not based on human rights and that she sees genocide and her heart is broken. Her intentions are that she's a Christian nationalist, anti-Semite who thinks the Jews need to be in Israel in order for the rapture to happen. She's a rapture prepper. That's why she's saying that. But the Democrats are getting outflanked constantly right now by Tucker and by Marge because the leadership takes AIPAC money, the same fuckers that spent the same amount as Musk, the Heil Hitler guy, to get Kanks elected. And I'm just like, I've had it. This was before you came on. My grievances right now, because I expect more out of these Democratic politicians. I need for them to fight for us.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so frustrating to watch. Like, it's infuriating. I wake up angry every day at these people who are in power meant to be representing us in our party, by the way. And I love a lot. You're right. I love a lot of these Democrats, to be clear.
I
love
do.
a lot, but a lot of them are just not, they don't get it. They don't get it. That's what I feel.
Right.
I feel like there's a little bit of a disconnect between folks like us and average Americans and voters and these people who've been in Congress for so long. And I get how that disconnect can happen. There's probably a big bubble in DC where you get in and you don't realize you're in the bubble, but it's there. And Marjorie Taylor Greene is working. I guarantee it. I'm not saying this for sure. I guarantee she's working with these really savvy consultants who are telling her, some of the two biggest issues in America right now are the Middle East, where everybody is paying attention, whether you're politically involved or not. We've all seen horrific videos on our algorithms that just break your heart, right? That's a big issue. And then healthcare. These two big issues. So we want you to just be the outlier in the Republican Party and frame yourself as a populist who cares about the people and get out there and just spread that message. And as soon as she did that, she's going on The View. She's going on Bill Maher. She's going on CNN. She's doing all these places you would have never seen Marjorie Taylor Greene before. And now, unfortunately, as you mentioned, you have these people who are not so politically savvy, which I understand. They have jobs, they have families, they got to focus on themselves. Marjorie Taylor Greene, she doesn't sound so crazy anymore.
Right.
And they're coming up. And that route right there that we're talking about, the positions that Marjorie Taylor Greene, those are positions that, on those two topics at least, that we, the Democratic Party, should be getting out there and spreading. We should be the ones saying, we got to extend ACA subsidies. And we have to make that our entire thing right now. We got to talk about the Middle East and the atrocities we are seeing and be honest about that. Not say, it's a war and it's both sides. No.
Right.
And so we can't see ground to somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is so loyal to Donald Trump and so crazy on the inside, no matter what her 7-figure consultants are telling her to say.
Her 7-figure consultants seem to have a better pulse on the message than the Democratic consultants.
And that's that.
That's sad.
That sentence right there. I'm so infuriating. It's so infuriating that is the case. And this was part of one of my other I've had it's, but I'll just segue in.
Let's hear it.
I've had it with weak Democrats. That's what it is. We're kind of talking about that right now. I've had it with weak Democrats. And one of my main points, and I was talking to people about this yesterday, is myself and my peers, we've never met Ken Martin. We've never talked to Ken Martin, the DNC chair. He's never reached out to creators like me to talk about the messaging or anything like that. He's never reached out to my peers. And one of the facts that I learned about Ken Martin, which was really astounding, was one of the first things he did when he got into the DNC chair position was give himself a raise from $300,000 to $350,000. That means he's making double what any member of Congress is making, number one. And also, number two, for the first time in a long time, the Republicans have raised more money than us. We are strapped for cash as a party, and Ken Martin gave himself a raise. And I think Ken Martin has done some great stuff as DNC chair, but we're talking these little missteps that are seeding ground.
Is he the guy that poo-pooed David Hogg?
He must have been part of it. I can't speak to whether he was the main guy because I didn't really follow the internal discussion there all that closely. But I imagine he was part of it. I mean, he's the DNC chair.
Yeah. I've seen him speak a couple of times, and I just feel like, one of the points that Cory Booker made in the episode is he said, people don't know who Chuck Schumer is. And I'm just like, fair enough. I get that. They don't. But I thought about it after that episode, and I thought everybody in America should know who the minority Senate leader is, because everybody knew who Mitch McConnell was. Everybody fucking knew who that motherfucker was.
That's right.
We all knew because he made sure we knew. And everybody should know who the DNC chair is right now. Everybody should know who the House minority leader is right now. These are layups to start speaking at the podium. And again, these guys are dorks. These are insecure, emotionally stunted cosplayers. You got Kash Patel, who was tweeting about his girlfriend last week, that she was a great American and a great country singing sensation. And she's done more for this country than anybody could do in 10 lifetimes. She's fucking 26. And so it's just like Kash Patel's girlfriend.
Yeah. And how old is he?
I don't know. Late 30s, early 40s. But
Continue,
just the fact that he thinks she's accomplished so much for the country. It's just so, I mean, these people are so idiotic. Okay. All right, Harry, let's move on and play our game. You're going to love it. It's called Had It or Hit It.
You're going to love it.
You're going to love it. Everybody loves. Okay. All right. Had It or Hit It, AI videos.
Oh, I've had it. I've had it. I did, the AI video that put me over the edge. I thought, maybe, some people let the boomers enjoy their AI videos, and that's not to hate on the boomers. I love the boomers, but let them enjoy their AI videos and things like that. Now I'm fucking over it. We gotta have some regulation there. I've had it with those.
Yeah. Tell me where you were when you saw that. Did somebody send it to you, or were you in your own phone and you saw it?
No, I was watching. So it was no King's Day. It was just after the protests. I'd gotten home. I'd been home for a couple hours, and it was Alabama, Tennessee. I was watching college football, and a friend of mine sent me a Truth Social link, which when that happens, there's something wrong. Nobody's on Truth Social. Nobody's on that hell site. If you're sending a truth, there's something going wrong. And my friend said, I think, if I'm correct, you're in the president's AI video. And that was the text they sent me. And I without even clicking on the link, I looked at it and I was no, come on. Trump is crazy. He is off his rocker. He is suffering from cognitive decline. But there's no way he's attacking a 23-year-old on social media. That's just, come on. And so I click on the link, and then what do you know? There's this ridiculous AI video. And I had to watch it a couple of times to process what I had just seen and realize that this is actually coming from the guy with the nuclear codes.
Right.
And then, I think my reaction was just disbelief initially.
What a dipshit.
Fuck
what
a
dipshit. What a dipshit. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. We upgraded dipshit to fuck twat because as the fascism escalates, we feel like our profanity should escalate along with it. Dipshit didn't seem satisfactory.
No,
okay.
I don't think so.
That was so wild when I saw that AI video of you, because I had been at the No Kings March in New York. Pumps was at the one in Houston.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. And then I went and looked at because I'm like, I wanted to see the aerial footage, because when you're in the march, you feel like it's big, but you don't really know. So I was actually on the internet. I think probably Instagram. That's really the only social media website I go on. Classic Gen Xer. And, it popped up and I was like, no fucking way. And then I'm going to find that article for you about them use the people. He's not smart enough to have used you purposely, but the people who made the AI video, you were a purposeful choice to humiliate a young progressive male. That was by design of this. It was like a part of the autocratic playbook, which I think is really interesting. Okay, moving along. Had it or hit it, Gen Z politics.
That's I wish there was like a middle answer, because I've both had it and hit it. The reason I've had it is because, as we talked about in this episode, young guys that look like me, like consistently sabotaging not only themselves, but our country as well. But also, I think there are a lot of great people in Gen Z. I think there are so many talented activists out there who are far smarter than me and are doing the work on the ground and are getting people out to vote and register to vote. And they really care. So I look, you know what? Actually, I'll just say hit it, because I won't let the losers drag me down. I'm going to say hit it because of these great people out there I know.
I agree. And I read some polling that Gen Z has completely switched, even young males. Women, of course, have always been to the left and continue to lead on sanity, but men your age have now are purging their Trump support, much like the Latinos for Trump and all of the other groups that he's losing. Okay, moving along. Had it or hit it, Joe Rogan.
Oh, I mean, that's the easiest one yet. I've had it with Joe Rogan. I think his podcast used to be something that inspired productive discussion, like a long time ago. That is a long time ago. Now it's just, where can we find the craziest lunatic on vaccines or climate change or politics to come on and have a conversation? I mean, you'll have like a random guy on the sidewalk, it feels like, pulled into the Joe Rogan studio and ask deep questions about mRNA vaccines and have them give this incredibly uninformed take. And then that hurts people in the process. And then they're taking horse tranquilizer the next day. Like,
right. Right.
What are we doing? What are we doing? So I've had it.
And I think with Joe Rogan, have y'all seen these clips where like you can tell like he automatically attributes intelligence and knowledge to somebody that has money when they haven't earned that attribution? Like, especially when he's interviewing Elon Musk, he thinks, well, this guy's, got a bank account that could choke a bull, so he must know what the fuck he's talking about. When in actuality, Elon Musk is a junkie. He is completely strung out on ketamine. He is a drug addict. He is a baby producing addict. He cannot stop spreading his semen, which I read on his very website that he had a botched penile surgery. And I wouldn't mention that, but I read it on his actual website. Right.
Wow.
And the fact that he platforms and attributes intelligence to somebody who has money, I think is a real problem with American culture right now, because that's what I think people did to Trump. They attributed intelligence and success to him because he has money, when the truth of the matter is he inherited money. He lost all of that money. He, lies about his financial statements, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, moving along. Had it or hit it, read receipts.
Oh, had it. Wait, it depends. I've had it for myself. I like it when other people have them, though.
I completely agree. I agree.
Yeah, so because I am the worst texter in the world. People who are like my best friends will text me and I'll text them a day later. I'll be like, oh, yeah, I'm sorry for the delay here. I'm so bad at it. And so I don't like that they know I've read their text message, but I'm okay with them knowing that they've read mine, so I can be angry at them if they've ignored me. So I'm a hypocrite, basically.
Completely.
Me too. I'm the same way about so many things, like the environment. I would like to think I'm an environmentalist, but I drive an SUV. I mean, I have so much work to do as a person. It's just fucking believable.
Well, that's the beauty of it. Constant progress, few steps forward,
That's that whole like evolving. We need to be the party of evolving, owning our mistakes, even if it's Cory Booker, even if it's Hakeem, and you want to, say we were wrong about AIPAC. We're refunding it. We're done. I think that we have to make space if they choose to do that. These are the leaders we have, and when it's going to be all hands on deck to fight fascism. Okay.
Totally. Harry,
last one. Had it or hit it, JD Vance's Halloween costume.
Oh, God, had it. I think it was Tommy Vitor who you were talking to, and he said, I'm so sick of losing to fucking losers. Mm-hmm. JD Vance is such a fucking loser. He is such a loser. He's one of those insecure men I just described earlier. And I think, Jennifer, you described him as like, a failed drag queen. It's what he always wanted. And then he had to write the book and, pretend to be that. And then now he's vice president. It's what he always wanted. He is such a loser. He's an insecure man. He doesn't have a job. All he does at the White House is troll. He went after me on Twitter. You cannot be an elected official at that high and going after 23-year-olds on social. No. That cannot be the way. And so I hate JD Vance. And so I've certainly had it with his dumbass costume, his dumbass face, and everything he does. But I'm not bitter.
I cannot stand this guy. I think it's such a window to his soul that he should be the ringleader on quieting and quelling these racist attacks and these xenophobic attacks, considering he has a wife that's of Indian descent and mixed race children. And then he's doing a slap and tickle on stage with Eric Kirk in the weirdest shit I have ever seen in my whole goddamn life. And then I read this online that people were saying, and this is devastating that he's not taking the lead on this, that Usha Vance was a political liability for him if he wants to be the heir apparent of MAGA. And you know what? I think this is a grown-ass man who has changed his name 3 times.
In adulthood.
3 times he's changed his name. And so this is just, I think he is just the most malleable
chameleon,
puss boy, bad eyeliner, whacked out, failed drag queen. I think he would be happiest if he could have been a drag queen. You know, in his book, he wrote that he thought he was gay when he was little. And then, you know, in college, he dressed up in drag a lot, which I support. You know, I think he could have gotten some tutorials from a more experienced drag queen and could have taken it over the finish line and maybe not failed. And he used to have a trans roommate. And the 180 to being a million times worse, and the devolution of him and not evolving in a positive way, but regressing. It's just, ugh.
Yeah, I think JD Vance is going to soon come to terms with the monster he helped create, which is, you know, the people that are now in the Republican Party, the total racist loser freaks that are in the Republican Party. He and Donald Trump and members of it for years stoked the flames of hate. They said the way to go is be a white Christian male and have your wife be subservient, but also have her be a white Christian woman. That was the way that they framed their ideal society in America. And then they got elected off of that hate. They played into people's worst tendencies and they got elected. And now JD Vance is clearly, you know, as he's malleable, he's power hungry. He clearly wants to be president. And he's going to have to reckon with the beast of all of these people hating his family. And to be transparent, any man worth anything would stand up to those people and say, don't come after my family. I'm going to stand up for my wife and kids. I full-heartedly believe that JD Vance will not do that. I think he is such a coward, a baby. And if they come after his wife, he'll do exactly what we've seen so far. Like, you know, I want her to convert and I'm trying to get her there and, you know, all this bullshit. I think he's going to do that, truly.
No, I don't think he'll ever stand up for his wife because he already would have. He's had the opportunity, but he doesn't. It's so sad. But didn't he? Okay, so he's changed his name 3 times in adulthood. He's changed his religion 3 times in adulthood. He changed his position on America's Hitler to being the vice president. This man will do whatever he thinks is in his best interest at the time. And he doesn't think
what's so scary about that, Pumps and Harry, is he will do not what's in his best interest, but somebody far darker and somebody far more psychotic. And that's Peter Thiel.
Thiel, his mentor.
And so it's just, I mean, it's really overwhelming. It's overwhelming when you think about it. But that's why I think it's so important for us to collaborate with collaborators like you, a cross-generational collab, and for us to form communities and to help build our own democracy-centered ecosystem. And Harry, I just cannot tell you what a joy it's been having you on. And I hope that we can meet you in person, maybe at some victory party somewhere at some point. And I'd love to collaborate with you again. Where are you based out of?
I'm in New York City. So if you guys,
oh my God, I just moved here.
You're in Manhattan?
Yeah, I just moved to Manhattan a month ago.
Oh my gosh.
My youngest child graduated from high school and I sent him to California. And I decided I didn't want to live in the Bible Belt anymore because I was always the skunk at the garden party, being the progressive atheist in the Bible Belt. And so I was sick of it. And I love Oklahoma and I have a lot of great friends there, but I was really exhausted with a Bible culture. So I moved to New York.
Wow. Have you been to New York before, aside from living here?
A bunch. Yeah.
Oh God. Well, so you know it then. I was going to say you are going to love it. I love New York City. It is such an amazing place. And so congratulations on the move. That is so cool. And I'm here, you're here, and I know a lot of other people are here. So we can definitely make something happen and do some cool stuff.
All right. Sounds great, Harry. Thanks so much.
Thanks, you guys. Harry. I appreciate it.
I'm so impressed with, we've had some young progressives on this podcast. And I'm not going to browbeat Gen Z, because I think that generation growing up with these phones and a lot of their coming of age years, Trump being either in power or dominating the news cycle during Biden's. And I just am so impressed with the ones that have found their political voices. I think it was, what was that kid we had on?
Dean Withers.
Dean Withers. I liked him a lot. And he was like 18 or 19.
Ridiculous.
They are Harry Sisson.
Yeah. I think they're doing so much to maximize the message in their age groups, particularly. And I can't help but compare them to what I was doing at 23, which was fucking embarrassing myself, being an asshole, making horrible decisions. And so I'm like, I applaud this young generation. They're doing really good work. And they've had not only have they always had Trump, they had COVID. Remember, they were isolated.
And then I just think
a lot.
And the cell phones, I just don't think we can overstate the damage of disconnecting them from other human beings in very critical developmental years that those cause. And we're starting to see the damage of that. And so I'm so happy to collaborate with him.